have to push your agenda on me.
Cabin Republican.
All right, we ready?
Yeah, Mike.
Fold
you're,
my
you're
arms
the
and be all
neighborhood,
closed
you're
off.
the neighborhood Democrat. You got to introduce us.
Oh God. All right. Well, welcome back to the podcast. I'm Mike.
John.
Okay, and we're going to address the elephant in the room.
Call me
Chuck.
out.
Chuck is not here.
Doesn't look quite like
Chuck is not here. He's enjoying some time with his family,
That's
but
right.
I went ahead and called like the most qualified and well-read and well up to date person I could think. That knew a lot.
And he didn't answer. So
He didn't
picked
answer
up
his
this bum on the
phone.
corner.
Yeah, so we picked up Tom.
They grabbed me. Exactly.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I knew that was coming.
Yeah, we'll
I
see
would have
what
been disappointed if it didn't, actually.
so anyway, this week we decided to speak about Doge,
Yes.
I
which
thought you
is
said Dodge.
shit. Did I say Dodge?
Yeah.
My bad.
Because you're kind of a Miata guy, so I thought, you're...
Have you actually been on the website?
I have.
I did. I did
It's,
too.
yeah,
Oh,
it's...
interesting.
Well, it was
Yeah.
really interesting at first. It was just like this mean, trollish kind of website.
Yeah,
It was
yeah,
very
a little
odd.
bit, Yeah.
I don't know how they've updated it. That was the first
Well,
thing
now
that
they have the wall of receipts. and
Yeah.
stuff,
That's
which
what
is
I
very
love that. That was
interesting. Yeah, you have a better aspect you can bring up, but yeah.
Go ahead, John. What was your
No.
first?
Go, I want to hear what you have to say about it. We'll go from there. You did the most research, I think. I mean, I have done a little bit, but I know you have extensive amount of papers.
I do. I went line by line on that wall of receipts and
No, it's
looked
good.
at
I wanna hear your
everything they cut,
Mhm.
which was a tedious task.
They don't sponsor us. You haven't had the C4.
So the thing that I was most leery about was the website. When it first popped up, I looked at this thing. I was like, "This is janky. Like, This doesn't look official." It was really odd to me. And the transparency that they were putting out were like spreadsheets that I could create and say that was the information, and I didn't feel like it was real.
Okay.
And for a long time, I was like, "This is some weird stuff going on." But this wall of receipts made me feel a little bit more comfortable because it was the direct link to what I was looking at from what they were posting on
Right.
their X account, right?
Yeah.
They would have this number. I would go to that website and I was able to pull up that layout of the government contract that they had cut. So I'm feeling a little bit better with this wall of receipts. What about you guys? What was your reaction to everything when it first started?
I liked it. I respect the fact that they're kind of, well, they seem to be very transparent even about the jankiness of the website. They're like, we're working, it says right there at the top, we're working to upload all the data that is digestible, and it's going to get better as it goes on. I'm paraphrasing. I appreciated the wall of receipts. I think it's kind of interesting to actually see how much real estate is just wasted. I mean, there's a ton of money that's just going out. If it's all as accurate as it is, it's pretty impressive to see just how much inefficiency there is in just leases. I mean, that's
Agreed. I mean, and the craziest, they say that this is like 1%.
Yeah.
They've only done like 1%.
Mhm.
And we're already, like, everybody's already going, oh my God. Oh my God.
well. Contracts. I mean, there's, you're talking. There's right here, Department of Agriculture, a contract that was $25 million.
And that was one thing that is, I guess I had a really bad understanding of how government worked because I was surprised that these were all contracts that were
Mhm.
just given out.
Yeah.
When you think of government, you think of like government employees doing government business.
Right.
But it's private
Yeah.
firms doing
Mhm.
this work,
Yeah.
which is something that opened up my eyes. Like, this
Mhm.
is pretty weird to me.
Yeah. There's a lot of private firms.
Yeah. IRS.
It's crazy.
IRS.
Yeah.
The IRS is not a government agency.
Mhm.
It's a private firm. And so it's when you start looking at it, it's disturbing.
So
And I find it quite disturbing just in the simple fact that we're just now looking at this, and and we're in 2025. Like, I feel like this is something we should have realized we needed to do a long time ago, is just checks and balances. Every corporation, every family, every organization in the country tries to monitor its efficiency. Why are we not?
Yeah. I mean, I agree. It's crazy. I remember watching a clip with Jon Stewart. I remember just watching that clip. I can't remember who he was interviewing, but he was interviewing, this was like, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, but he was interviewing a woman about the audit, and he was questioning her about the audit on the Defense Department, because they've failed the audit like 7 years in a row, right? And she was arguing back that the fact that they failed the audit was not proof that there's fraud, waste, and abuse. And then he was like, if I give you $1 billion and you can't tell me where that is or what it's been spent on, in my world, it's fraud, waste, and abuse.
Mm-hmm.
And she was laughing at him and trying to be like, no. And so that's where I look at this and I go, this has needed to happen for over a decade, at least, in my opinion. And I think it's gotten worse over the years. I mean, we've always done crazy stuff. For years I've talked about when I was in the military how at the end of when the end of the year came for the fiscal budgets and stuff, that whatever money you had, you didn't get rewarded for spending less. You spent every dime you possibly had, so you didn't get penalized, and you got more money the next year. Or you would fire off every single round of ammunition that they had allotted to you, even though you might not need it, and you could have it go back to divvied out to other units. You'd fire off every single round, because if you didn't do it, you wouldn't get as much next year. It was the way they ran the military, and we spent so much money on wasteful things. I mean, I was part of the S3 at the time, so I knew we were in charge of spending a lot of spending for the units, and we bought huge plastic bears that were out in front of our building that looked like badgers. We had to repaint them, just stuff like that. But it was all because end of the year, $250,000 left to spend, hadn't spent it, spend it all. Rooms full with toilet paper. Who knows when it ever gets used or just gets, thrown out or left there or whatever. But just a lot of misspending, even back then. And it just looks like it just keeps getting worse to the point where it makes you think about how much of it is some form of laundering potentially, stuff like that, with these NGOs and stuff like that.
It makes you wonder. It is.
It is, but since I don't have proof that it is yet,
I guess okay.
You might see proof coming out, which I think is the whole good thing of this. As this plays out, people, instead of, because that's the one thing I see too, is like I was listening to what is it, Chuck Schumacher, Schumer, and he's like basically just talking shit about the whole process. And to me, any person that's going to sit there on a hill and just completely talk shit about what's happening and how it's all wrong, they're full of shit. Because there's no way you can't look at some of this and go, I think some of this is good. I think maybe this area is good, or maybe this is good. You cannot like all of it. I totally understand that.
You could not like the way he's going about it.
But to completely just say that it's a detriment to the American people and all these programs, so that's just, it's the same rhetoric that we keep getting. Nobody ever wants to own anything. I feel like, especially from the Democratic side, nobody wants to own anything. Nobody wants to be truthful about anything. Part of the reason this seems weird and it almost seems fake is because we're not used to the government being transparent. That's the one thing I'll give credit, and I know it's a little bit off Doge, but it's one thing I'll give credit. I started to notice a lot of, as the appointees have started to take office, they've actually been putting out media posts themselves of their entities doing, what acts they are taking to try to, what are they working on to try to make things better, what's currently going on in the organizations and stuff like that. So,
and I think Schumer talking shit, as you said, this is moving fast, right? Like things are happening, and I think they're trying to catch up to it. Yeah. So their go-to is reactionary, like this is wrong,
right? Which
I felt the first time, and I think I felt the wrongness of is how they did the layoffs. I felt like that was really indiscriminatory, like they just across the board fired people and not thought out. So that's what kind of scared me and made me feel like,
but we don't know what kind of thought went into it beforehand.
I don't think any did.
You really think?
I don't. I think they just started hacking stuff. Yeah, the fact that they just fired a bunch of probationary employees, which they have no, I get it. They don't have protections. You can just let them go, right? But what are a lot of probationary employees? They're people that got promoted, right? And they've backfilled a promotion spot.
Generally not always that. You don't necessarily enter a probationary state at that point.
You do.
Where you would get fired. You're probationary in that role that you're new, and not where you don't have any time with the organization.
I know, but
are you talking about the person that got promoted or the person that backfilled?
So what I'm saying is there's people that are on probation that were manager 1s. They've been promoted to manager 2, and they have a year probation. And those people got let go. It happened. It definitely happened.
Okay.
It's also veterans that are coming out of the military and coming into government jobs that are on probation. Yeah. They got let go.
Yeah.
So, I mean, those are people that got hit that I don't think they thought about. And I went down the line and looked at a lot of people that got let go in different agencies and where they were wrong. And I know this is microscopic, but it is a thing. Like
No, it's
this
important.
happens when you just start firing everybody.
But do you look at it as I feel like you're looking at it from a human aspect, and I appreciate that, and I'm not discrediting it. Like you're looking at it as, that person had a family, that person had kids, they got fired indiscriminately, and there's a human aspect to it, which I'm wholeheartedly a part of. Like I don't want to ever take the human aspect out of any decision, because that's what makes us. That's why I don't like AI, right? Because it takes the human aspect out of everything. It's just logic, ones and zeros. But you also have to balance out with the corporate side of it too. Like if it's a business and you are running at a horrible deficit, you're left with only a few decisions, and I was part of that, right? I was just part of that last year. I ended up going through on a new job for 30 days, and within 30 days, the company went belly up because there was things happening on the background that caused them to run in a deficit, and so in 30 days, I lost my job, right?
Were you okay with that?
No,
You said you wouldn't cussed out the CEO.
No, I did. I was angry. But I also had a lot of compassion for the CEO. One, because he took really good care of me. In the end, he realized the shittiness of the situation. But I can't look at that. I couldn't logically go once I got over the fact that they hired me and then fired me 30 days later. I had a long conversation with the CEO and told him I understand the situation. It had to be a corporate decision, because at that point in time, for the last 2 weeks of me working there, pretty much came out of his family's pocketbook, because it had to be a corporate decision. There wasn't money coming in to pay me, therefore they had to make the decision. So I understand that people lost their jobs and it affected their families, and it's a shitty situation and it's horrible, and I hope they're all okay. But at the same time, when you look at this number right here at the bottom of this thing, the federal deficit, we're looking at $1.8 trillion in deficit. Like, while we've been sitting here, I was going to do this as a matter of fact, and I totally forgot to. I was going to let the ticker tick for the national debt. Like, the amount of interest on $1.8 trillion, like, while we sat here, we probably went further in debt as a country than I'll make in an entire year. Like, and so at some point in time, somebody has to come along and make the hard decisions. That's the counter of the tariffs and everything else, right? You've got to go through a little bit of pain to get things right. If you came home and you did lose your job, what are you going to do? Your kid comes up and says, "Hey, I want to go to the movies." I'm sorry, man, I don't have money. Right? You're going to have to make those hard decisions. Your kid's going to be upset, and things are going to suck. You have to make the hard decisions. But eventually, you're going to get back on your feet, and you're going to be able to go back and go to the movies and buy the $40 bottle of popcorn. Mm-hmm. But at this point, I think that's where we're at as a country with $1.8 trillion in deficit. Like, somebody's got to come along and go, pump the brakes, time out. If you're not absolutely needed at this very moment, we have to let you go.
Okay, and what he's doing with the cuts of the Doge cuts when it comes to these big, what's it called? The big contracts he's cutting. I think that has a bigger impact than the people getting let go. And I'm on board I've started to get on board with the contracts that are being cut. Mm-hmm. My hard part was the layoffs. I guess they're two different things.
And
right? I probably shouldn't have jumped into the layoffs yet. We can just talk about.
Well, I wanted to give my view on the layoffs.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just real quick. So for me, I think that everybody wants to look at the lower level of it and go, "Oh, Trump's doing this," but they don't want to look at this is a management problem, right? Mm-hmm. This has been mismanaged, and when it's a management problem, it's not Trump's fault. Granted, was he the president at one point in time, and he could have looked at this then? Sure. And I think he probably did notice it then. Like, this is crazy, but he walked into a world that he'd never been in before. And so try to learn it as you go. This time around, he's like, now we're going to make changes. But this is a mismanagement of decades. You know what I mean? So yes, it's unfortunate for the people that are being let go. But at the same time, what's the logical avenue that you can even take to diminish the forces to the numbers you have to diminish them to, because they've grown so exponentially because people haven't really controlled it and limited and actually tried to limit their budgets. They've just blown these agencies up, these government agencies, to where there's they might even argue they're understaffed, and the reality is they're overstaffed, and so they have to cut them. So the question is you can try to sift through everybody. What time frame is that though? And then you're also looking at, now you're showing favoritism potentially versus just saying, look, here's the basis to this. If you're probationary, okay, unfortunately, we can let you go. That is what it is. And then other things. But to be able to go through and sift everybody would almost be, it would take forever.
You have 4 years. You have 4 years. I think
it's not forever though.
But you could take some time. I think it could be longer than like.
But you still have to fire the people, right?
I don't. Okay, I'm gonna let you keep going. With this,
you don't feel that? Okay, so we've talked about even state jobs, right? There's people that kind of just are there, right? They don't really do a whole lot. They know they can't get fired. So if they just sit chill. If you know that that's not your future reality and you actually have to work and be a top contender to be able to be in these organizations, you're going to start seeing more productive workloads out of these people because they don't want to lose their jobs. Now there is a fear that you can lose your job if you aren't doing it there. And so, it was so fat that people were able to sit there and be like, I don't care. I can't get fired, and have that mentality.
It was so fat that I know people that work for state departments where they're told when they come onto the job, they're told by their counterparts, don't work so hard. You're making us all look bad. You need to back down.
I could see that.
Like, no one's ever said it to me, but I have people that have been told that. So I'm hearing, I guess, second.
Yeah, I work in the government, so I can tell you my experience. But I'm going to go off what you just said. Okay, I know there are those 1 or 2 guys that sit there and do whatever they want. But I would hate for 10 people that are actually working to get cut for those 2 guys that don't do the job, right? Mm-hmm. So I think sifting through would be a little bit better because we're going to fire Tom and keep me and you because we're actually working.
Right.
And there's the blanket layoffs is rough because they're actually trying to hire people back that they fired. And I have a list of the things they've made mistakes. And now I think they're realizing that they were too aggressive. So that's what...
You might be right. Well, you probably are right.
Yeah.
Well, and the alternative to that could be they're making the initial cuts. Like, we have to hit these markers. Let's hit it. Now you can come back and sift. Now your force is low. Now if you got fucking Joe Schmo and he sucks, you can go, you're not meeting the mark. And you hire the other people back. But now you're swapping 1 for 1.
Do you think these people come back? I mean, honestly, do you think they come back after they've been fucked like this? Like, now they have to figure out how to pay their bills. Maybe they were 1 income house and they're like, what the fuck do we do now? Like, maybe they don't trust the government. Maybe they don't come back. And they were good people.
Or maybe they already didn't trust the government.
Possibly. Do you guys want to hear some of the stuff I found of the guys that are the people that were fired quickly and now we're trying to, like, scramble? Okay.
I could see them doing that.
So the USDA fired employees who were working on the bird flu. It's right now a breakout. They're scrambling to try to hire them back. I think that's pretty important. I think that they moved too quickly there. 180 employees were fired from the National Security Administration that manage the nuclear arsenal and radioactive materials. They're scrambling to get them back.
I'm sure we still have other ones there. Yeah.
Yeah. The only thing I will say is out of this, I'd love to know what the 180 out of how many.
And what is
probably 1,000.
And
I think or maybe a couple thousand.
And I'd also want to know what the exact definition of scrambling is.
I mean, you can pull it up and see what it says on the news, but so do you think it's okay? Like, let's say that 180 was just a small number that was monitoring the nukes and radioactive material. You think it was okay to lose those people in this 1,000? Really?
Like what he said. What's the overall number? I mean, if I'm just going to look at the 180, I have to imagine they're not just going to leave it unmanned. We know that, right? That's not going to happen.
I would hope not.
Well, the guys that are picking up the slack are now working double time. I mean, you can talk that, that maybe that's what happened, but
I totally understand. I get what you're saying, and I agree to an extent. But to John's point, there has to be. Do you have a fear of losing your job? Like, in the back of your mind, is there a fear of losing your job?
No, I do not fear losing.
So is there at any point in time in your daily routine the thought of, like, okay, if I don't do my job right, I could lose it?
No, but I'm not motivated by losing my job. I'm motivated by things running efficiently because that's what my job is. My job is to make sure the court runs efficiently, and I have a judge that I have to answer to every single day that I sit like this and speak to.
Right.
So I'm motivated by my job. not by losing it.
Right. But on the flip side of that, if you don't do your job, what happens?
My judge goes and complains, and I get moved, and I might do a shittier job.
Or lose your job or
Well,
whatever,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
So I think that is the motivation. You're a good human, therefore you want to do good. You're not necessarily motivated by the bad, right?
Mhm.
So you're trying to do your job right, therefore you do your job well. I think that there's a lot of people out there, and unfortunately there's some casualties that should not have been casualties, but I guarantee you within that there are people there that were just not doing their job. I'll be honest with you, I would rather in a situation of people guarding nukes, especially, I would rather them cut back, have a group of people step up and work harder for a short time until we can hire people that want to be there. Because what I don't want is, I don't want one of those 180 that's in that group that got laid off not doing his job. Because that one guy that decides, I don't really care if I do my job well, if he does something wrong, it's catastrophic.
Okay, can I say something to that?
Please.
Who do you think is the most motivated person to do their job well? The person that's been there for 20 years or the probationary person that is trying to earn that position?
I don't think that's a question we can answer, because I
But-
can
well,
tell you in
no,
my
you can
office right
answer
now,
it.
the
You
one
can- you
person
can
that's
tell
most
me what you
motivated
think.
is he's been there forever.
You can tell. I told you how I felt about my job and not losing. You can tell me honestly who you think is going to work hard.
I think
Because you're speaking about the guy that doesn't do anything, that
I-
sat there forever and did nothing.
I think it's a case by case basis, because I work in an office where the guys that have been there for almost 30 years are some of the hardest working individuals there.
But you're talking contrary to what you just said. You said these people sit here and do nothing, right? They didn't lose their job in this, right? So they didn't fear losing their job, and they did nothing. But the probationary people, they're trying to work there, trying to do a good job, trying to earn a spot, got fired.
You're assuming.
Yeah.
I'm going off what you just said, that these people sit there and do nothing that have been there forever.
No, we're not. We never
didn't
said
say they did
everybody
nothing.
did. We never said that. Not that everybody's doing nothing.
But you said that there's a portion
He said
of
if
the
one person. He said if one person is not doing.
Yeah.
Okay, he's more likely to be the guy that didn't get fired in this thing, right? That one person.
I would hope not. I don't know. I don't know how they went
I'm
through the
telling you,
process.
that's exactly
The
what
interesting
happened.
part about what you said is when he asked you was, and maybe it's the other way too. You just didn't cover it. But when he asked you if you didn't do your job, what would happen to you? You
Mhm.
said I would be moved.
Yeah.
Instead of I would be let go.
Right, and that's
It
what
should
happened
be
to somebody.
What it is.
Wait, that should be it.
If you're not performing at a job, why would you be moved somewhere instead of being let go?
Exactly.
not performing.
I'm with you on that. I'm
Oh.
talking to you. I agree with that.
Yes.
But I'm
Yeah.
telling you, the people that got laid off were not that person.
I understand that, but my point to that is, what are you supposed to do? Wait for if you're either going to dial down to managers. You got to think of an organization. You got your head dude at the top, right? He has to make cuts.
Mhm.
Okay, so just take it as a bit. Think of the United States of America as Stryker Orthopedic.
Okay.
Right? You're in debt right now. You don't have money to pay people anymore, right? So you have a choice. You have to cut your workforce. You're just cutting. You're just cutting your workforce. You're going to look at the bare minimums you can have. You're not going to look. You're going to look at some key people, of course. Probably the people that make the most money. That's how an organization would generally work, because they would look at them and they might know them more. But then you're going to make massive cuts, and it's not going to matter who the person is and everything like that, if you have to do it quickly. Now, if you can do it slowly, you would dish out to the managers and you would say, can you please evaluate your people, let the people go that you want to go. You could do it that way. The problem with the government right now, it's not easy to fire people. You can't just let people go. There's a lot of red tape there, right? Now, you can eliminate positions, but you can eliminate the position, but you can't just fire them easily, but you can eliminate the position. To fire them, you have to show patterns, you have to show everything else, but you can eliminate the position because you can't afford to do it. So that's what they have to do. Which once they do that, they actually can't hire back into that position. Technically, it is the government, so I guess they can kind of maybe do what they want. But technically, they're not supposed to hire back into that position for at least a year, if I'm not mistaken, off the top of my head. So they'd have to fire somebody else that was in a current position that maybe wasn't doing their job correctly, and then hire one of those old people back into that position. They can't just create a new position for them to come back. So what they've done overall, my point to that is what they've done is they've eliminated the number of positions that are available, and but to do that, they had to let people go. Now they can actually try to work on putting the proper people in the now limited positions that they have to make sure that they have the best agency running the leanest it can possibly run.
Mm-hmm.
My question to you would be, what would be the way that you would do it, other than this, if you have a problem with this?
Yeah, if you're running a company that's, we won't even say $1.8 trillion in deficit, but you're running in such a deficit that you cannot. Currently there is not enough revenue being generated to dig yourself out of this hole. You are hemorrhaging money in your company. You are overstaffed because the hiring of your staff was done in a lackadaisical and inefficient manner, and you have more bodies than you have work to do. And mind you, this is the reality of what I learned earlier this year, is that it took 2 months of an issue. It took 2 months. It took just less than 60 days, from my understanding. It took just less than 60 days, from my understanding, for the folks that I worked for to lose a year's worth of revenue. So you're in a situation where every week that goes by, your company's lifespan grows shorter by months, to the point where if you don't do something quick, you're not going to have to just lay off 180 people of the 2,000 that you have hired. You're going to have to lay off everybody. You're staring down the barrel of firing 3,000 people. You have to do something. What do you do?
Why aren't you making money? Why isn't this company not making money?
Well, you know the answer to that. I mean,
I don't know. I want to hear you say why it's not making money. Why is this company that you're talking about not making money?
Well, I don't know if we're going to keep it in the realm of the United States.
No, I'm going to your hypothetical question. Why are they? No, I'm.
Okay.
You talked about my
all
trying
right.
to answer your hypothetical.
Okay. So
why
are we not making money? Well, at this point in time, the inefficiencies of our company are keeping us from
I'm with you.
From making money, right? Okay. We are spending more than we're making, right? We don't have a real way to the market. I'm trying to keep it within our example here. Our market doesn't allow us to go out and get more revenue, right?
Mm-hmm.
I can't go get more taxpayers.
We have bad policies.
We have bad policies. I'm shipping money out to other countries like free will. Like large sums of money are going out. Everything is just it's absolute madness. My spending is off the hook. I've got my security department, when they're with leftover bullets at the end of the year, the only method they have to make sure they get bullets the following year is to go shoot the ones that they're sitting on, right? Just waste them, shoot them into the dirt, whatever it takes, right? And so there's just mad inefficiencies, and that's why we're not making money.
Okay. So your company's doing well, I believe, by cutting out these way they're spending money as the company runs, right? Like they're like not going to pay money to this consultant that's coming in and telling them how to run their company. And I think that's smart because that's what he's doing. He's cutting these aren't also like subscriptions to magazines, right? We don't need that anymore. Like Pro Politico is like ripping off the government. Like every agency has like these $1 million.
Basically, we don't need Netflix anymore.
Yeah, we don't need that.
Yeah.
And you're doing right there.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, we're cutting the fat. We're not doing this. But you also said your company's not running efficiently within, correct?
Correct.
So you have these longtime workers that are fucking off and not doing right? Probably.
I see where I see where you're going. Keep going.
You're like, you know what? I like this guy. He's going to be good. He's young. He's out of college. He's going to do well. He's going to replace Jim that's been here, and he's fucking off. He's falling asleep at his desk. Not good, right? Mm-hmm. You don't hire the college kid to get this running straight. You figure out how to get rid of Jim. And that's not what happened. They let go of all these young, bright people and kept the shit. They didn't do what they wanted to do because it was quick. And they didn't sift through things.
But let me speak to that. From a manager perspective, you can't do that. That's illegal. You will be sued.
But then how does it get efficient?
You can eliminate the position.
Yeah, then why don't you do that? Why don't you? No, they started off firing probationary people.
They eliminated those positions. That's how they.
Well, those people are still there, backfilling the people that you let go. Are doing that. You said we're going to have a force that's. Hold on.
Fire a probation person because you can.
Yeah, but that doesn't make it efficient. Like this is the Department of Efficiency.
It does make it efficient.
No, it doesn't, because you kept the shit. You kept the shit in place.
Let me put it to this. You don't even have.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
I do, but it's sorry. Go ahead.
You don't even have enough money to pay your employee. You understand that? You have no money, zero.
But you need a company, or there's going to be nothing.
Exactly. That's the point.
I know, but then why fire the guys that are inefficient?
Because you have to go for the easy money first.
It takes too much time.
You have to go for. I'm not saying it's right, but there comes a point in time, and I truly believe as a country we are there.
You're at D-Day.
You're
at the line.
Yeah, you're at the like it is. We are at a point, and I think what's failed in being communicated to people is just how desperate we are. $1.8 trillion deficit.
How long is the deficit? How long have we been in deficit?
Let's see. Last year was $1 trillion in deficit.
But how far back? Like, how many presidents have operated in a deficit?
Probably, decades. I would say probably. I mean, I don't.
So
who was it? Well, the last.
Dominic's got it up.
The last
since 1970, we've ran at a deficit.
Well, no, because you have didn't.
It says for all but 4 years from 98 to 2001, they experienced
right, because that was
turnaround.
That was freaking Clinton.
Yeah. So what I was gonna say, and I get it. You see, it's D-Day. But since 1970, we've ran at a deficit. I'm for changing shit. Like, I'm on board with you guys.
Mm-hmm.
But I want it done actually efficiently and correctly. Okay. I know it's hard to, but you know what I actually thought was good is the buyout. The buyout gets these fuckers out. It gets these people that are collecting a higher salary than missionary people. And I thought that was smart, right? But don't cut these guys yet until we get them out.
But
you're talking about trillions of dollars.
I know, and we are trillions, but it's been like that for a while. So if we okay, go ahead, Joe.
Well, say the buyout, that's a way to let people go without having a lawsuit. Yeah. They can choose to leave. You're buying them out, right? That's a severance package. They're out. Mm-hmm. That's a way. That's what I'm trying to tell you is you have to tread lightly in this scenario. On top of that, the other thing I'm going to tell you is 1970. You want time? They've had 50 years almost to fix the budget. Now we're 50 years later, and it has been 50 fucking years. That's crazy, right?
Yeah, it is crazy. Okay, it's insane.
So if we take it slow, you're going to be at another 50 fucking years. Because the problem with government is they do everything slow. It falls underneath the carpet, and then you don't hear about it.
They don't have to, but because they control the situation, they do. Yeah, because you have people, to your point, you have people at the very top who can't be fired, who are the queen and kings of inefficiency, that are controlling the situation and making sure it's as slow as possible, because the larger this number grows, the easier it is to control the country. And so you have people at the very top who have been sitting in seats so long that the wood is shaped to their ass.
Yeah,
like
I've seen it. I work in it.
Right,
I get it.
So, but you can't, there's no way that you can have it. And I'll say this real quick, because I think that the fact that his first 4 years went by so fast is why on day one, like minute 2, he started the process, because he knew that he only had 4 years and it's going to go by like a blink. And I think that's really why he dove in head first and said, "Screw it, we're going for it." There's no way, there's nothing he could do to come in and fire all of those people that have been sitting there that have been in politics for 60 years. They don't even know what it's like to be you and I. They have no clue. But yet they've been a politician.
I'm not talking about the
judging.
You can't fire a politician. I'm talking about the workers that are working in the vendors.
Well, there's another angle.
But that's the top down. Like, I mean, if you're going to look at inefficiencies and who's not doing their job and all of that, that's the top down. You're going to have to start stringing. Like, those are the people that are going to have to be, that have to change.
Well, but those aren't the people that are fired.
Well, the other angle.
I understand.
The other angle to that too, though, is okay. If I come in as a new boss to a new organization, I have to know that there are people from the past that have different mindsets than I do, that hired people that have different mindsets than I do. So those people that are inefficient hired people that are inefficient, right? So as you start putting the people in place, you need to clear up space so that as you put the people in place that you feel are efficient, you feel are going to do the job, so they can hire the people that they feel are going to do that job. That's what can start happening. You can start letting people go now. If people don't do their job, like you said, instead of getting moved, you can get fired. The problem is that we moved people. We need to stop moving people and fire people. These people that got fired, it's unfortunate, but that's a product of 50 years of a government. I mean, be mad at the United States of America. Be mad at the people you hired. but don't be mad at the guy that's finally coming in and making a change. Because the alternative to it is another 50 years of this. Which,
Yeah.
I hate to break it to you, I don't think we'd be here in 50 years.
No, I don't think so either. And to your point, and your point, actually, both of you,
Yeah, we're actually
It's
making the same point, but like talking about it differently.
you're talking from two different points of views, right? It's
So we
bad,
want the
it's-
same thing.
It's
100%.
bad management. Bad management
management.
produces inefficient employees. Inefficient employees cause you to lose good employees. Because as long as you tolerate bad employees, good employees won't want to stick around, or they get lost in friendly fire. So in this case here, to your point, yes, I guarantee you within that 180, there was a lot of good employees that probably should not have been fired. And I'm hoping that the fact that they're going back and looking at all these people going, all right, you know, I worked for a guy one time and it was his method that when he comes into a new job, kind of like what, you know, the president's doing now, right? Coming into a new job, the first thing he does, fires everybody. Fires
Oh,
everybody,
very common.
but he fires them with the prompt with this. The positions are open. You can reapply, right? Now, I can't do it now because
He's
we're
gonna
talking.
basically re-interview them all.
Yeah,
and see
he's
if they line
like,
up with his
do
rules.
you want your job? Because I want people working for me that want their job. I have no idea what my predecessor did. I don't know what the rules were. I don't know how they hired people. If you're just a friend or your family, because I see that a lot. Nepotism, like especially in some of these industries, is huge. Yeah, I hired you because you're my brother's best friend's cousin, right? I want you to be here because you want to be here, not because you're related to me. And so, unfortunately, I think that's what happened. And I'm hoping that when they're hiring people back, that whatever criteria that they're bringing people back is that, yeah, I want to do my job. I find guarding nuclear waste to be the most important thing that a man can do or a woman can do or a person can do. And I want that job. And I promise you, for the 8, 10, 15 hours I'm on the job. Sorry, didn't mean to pound the table.
It's all right. We can get
I'm
some.
not supposed to pound the table. I just got my hand slapped by Mike. Like, that's what I want. I want somebody there that's going to do their job, right?
Yeah.
Because, like, for you, I want you in a courtroom making sure it's efficient, because that's really honestly where the government efficiencies start, is in the courtroom. If you're there making sure it's efficient, then the judge can do their job. Hopefully they have the same passion for their job that you do.
I work with amazing judges.
So-
It's ridiculous how good these judges are.
And so that's how it starts, right? That's how change starts, is that passion to do the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so, unfortunately, when you come into a new position with people under you, you have no idea what you get, and you have to fix it. It's not the easiest thing to deal
And
with.
it's pretty common to come into a failing organization and
Yes.
really cut the shit out of it.
Every president has come into a failing organization since
Right,
1970.
and they haven't
least.
acted.
Yeah.
They haven't been good
And
leaders.
and I'm for fixing it. Just
Clinton was.
what?
Clinton,
Yeah, Clinton must have
he was a
done.
pretty good leader,
I'm for
Unfortunately, his success got overshadowed by
but yes.
some
his
undershadowing.
predilections,
Yes.
but I'm for changing it. I just think it was rapid, and I know that there was an urgency.
Yeah.
You feel that there's an urgency. More, I think it could have been done more efficient if they did it a little differently. It's just the way I feel. I know we have different opinions. From me working in government, I do know. So there's people that will get hired because there's a great benefits and great retirement, not because they want to do the job. It's
Right.
because
That's why
my
they
mom
apply.
told me,
Yeah,
"Oh
yeah.
man, you're going to be set for life. You're going to have all these benefits.
I'd say it's
Just
a
get
pretty
in there
common
somewhere and
conversation.
figure it out."
I'd say it's a pretty common conversation
Yeah.
in a lot of state, a lot of
It is.
government. Yeah, yeah.
It is, but like my wife works her ass off,
100%.
loves her job.
Yeah.
You know, she's not there for the benefit. I mean, it's a plus,
Everybody's there for the benefits.
Yeah.
Everybody's there for the money.
but that's where it
Understandable.
starts. It starts
She-
with people just getting their foot in the door.
She takes pride in her job.
Yeah.
100%.
But I think a lot of these government workers. What?
You just Freudian slip. It's okay.
What did I say?
You said military, but it's all right.
I guess military is fucked up too.
We
a lot of
haven't
these
got to that yet.
a lot of these government workers, which just happened to our monitor, got in just to get in.
Lost our monitor. Are we still recording?
Can you bring the teleprompter back up, please?
Please, I don't know what to say.
Exactly.
Thank
We don't know
you.
yeah, we are completely lost at this moment.
A lot of these people got in to get in, and we're like, I'm going to figure it out. I guess I'll just find a job I like. And I think that, and they've been here for 25 years, and that's
I totally agree. I think that there's people. I think that you got to get your foot in the door some way. But I think what you do once your foot is in the door is, if you come, speaking from experience again, if you come into a trainee or a probationary position or whatever like that, and you come in and you show your value, you make yourself valuable, and then there's good leadership on top of you, then they're not going to let you go. They're going to put you in a spot that's protected so that they don't lose you. If you're a year, 2 years in a probationary period, and this is for anybody that's listening. If you're 2 years in a probationary period and there's still that, you still don't have the security of like knowing that you have a valuable spot, then you need to reevaluate how you're working. Like, what have you done to make yourself valuable to that company? Because it's not the company's responsibility to make you valuable. It's your responsibility to be valuable to the company. So in this situation, and I'm not saying that everybody got fired did this, but if you've come into a probationary spot and you haven't made yourself valuable enough to where they want to keep you and protect you, reassess what you're doing so that you can earn that value.
And that's if that probationary spot is, it's not something that's like, like you said, like you're getting a promotion, you're just getting a promotion. That's kind of on your own. You don't really have a whole lot of control on that. So
yeah, and I agree with what you just said, but that wasn't done. They just fired everyone.
They didn't fire everyone.
They fired everybody
They fired big groups of people.
They fired, but they went for the low-hanging fruit, like you said. They fired probationary.
They fired who they could fire.
Yeah, I know, but I'm speaking to what Tom just said. I agree with them, and they shouldn't. They should have maybe done a little bit more due diligence and said,
"Yeah, I think
you can though."
But
you
no,
can,
I all right. So I think.
What do these managers work? Like you said, make them send a report up that said Jim and Bob are good and Bill and Steve are terrible.
Okay,
those are the.
But we're going to go back to your business that you're running, right?
You don't have time
to get that report and to do it legally. To John's point, so that you're not getting lost. You're not getting.
I'm talking about the probationary.
I got you, right? So to get that report, so that you're not, so that it all flows, so you don't end up in your courtroom, so to speak.
You won't,
right?
because they're probationary employees, so you can do it. You can just fire them.
To get that, but if you start drawing reports and acknowledging what they're doing and who's doing what and how all of that, so you've spent 2 months putting that together.
So.
In 2 months, you've just now spent $10 million in wasted money.
But we've been doing it for 50 years. Let me just put it this way. Can we spend a year to get it right so it actually works correctly? We've been doing it. I know we've been doing it for 50 years.
How do you know it'll only take a year?
Who knows? I'm just saying, can we do it more than a week?
What you do know is what.
How about we do it a little bit more than a week and just firing people?
I see what you're saying. I don't disagree with you. Like, I wish there was a better way to protect the people that got fired.
No, I disagree with you. It's been 50 years. So finally somebody comes in and actually pulls the trigger.
But they're doing it. I feel they're doing it incorrectly.
They had 50 years to do it correctly.
And Republicans, Democrats, they all did it wrong. I get it.
But I think that's where I think you guys are now down to arguing the absolute hair in the middle of this argument.
Probably. We have nothing else to argue about.
Yeah, we got plenty. All we got to do is scroll the page up, and there's another. We'll just have them move the teleprompter. I think what you're talking about is, yes, it's shitty that it has to be done. It's absolutely the worst possible way to do it. 100% agree with you. Incorrectly. Yeah. It is absolutely the most horrible way to do it. But to John's point,
I don't feel it's incorrect.
But to John's point, it is the only thing that's left because of that number on the screen. 1970. We've been in a deficit. If you, again, in your family, if you noticed tomorrow that you're running in a deficit at your house, how long is it going to take you to respond to that deficit? You're going to respond immediately, right?
We're gonna talk about how we cut it and fix it.
Right, but that's immediate response. I'm not saying that you're going to go drastically start firing your children, but
I'm not going to cut the energy bill because I need energy.
Right.
You're
going to start to go
my
through
house
because you have
I'm
time.
Cut the fucking internet because I don't need that.
But let's say you've married into a family.
I wish I married into a rich family. I love you, Joy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Just make sure you don't shoot all of us, right?
Yeah.
If you've married into a family that has had 20 years of living in a deficit, you're going to be like, we got drastic problems. We're about to lose the house. Like, we're about to lose the property. We're about to lose the shop. Like, it's about bad. Like, we've got to make drastic decisions, and if we wait more than a week, we're on the streets.
Okay.
So because of failed decisions in the past, you're left with only drastic ones in the present. And I think that's what John is saying is that we have hit that point of so many failures on both sides of the aisle, failure after failure after failure. And sadly, most of the people that are still on both sides of those aisles started back in 1970.
Yeah, 100%.
So we as a country are continuing those failures because we continue to elect these people back into office. So we're just continuing the bad decisions that are forcing somebody who, I agree, likes the splash, right?
For sure.
He likes the splash,
Agreed.
right? But he's going to come in and he's trying to do what nobody has done for 50 years. All that's left to do when we're sitting at $1.8 trillion in deficit, there are foreign countries that are coming into our country, buying up land, bringing in money, taking control. Like if you look at the definition of a hostile takeover, like you've got these different countries and different people that are looking at us going, America's weakening. Our economy's weakening. Like it's divided. Like all of this stuff is happening. And if we don't do something soon, those people are going to take over. And when they take over, it doesn't matter what we say. We're not going to be able to do podcasts like this because it'll be illegal.
I think John wants to talk, and I do appreciate your urgency of what the problem. So go ahead and tell me what you're thinking.
I was going to say is, I think I understand what you're saying. I can understand the way you're looking at it, okay, and I respect it. I just don't think you're looking at it from a legality standpoint, as far as being like what you have to do to let somebody go, right? Literally, it could take a year, if I'm lucky, just to let somebody go. That's if I counsel them on stuff they're doing wrong and they don't show any improvement. If they show the slightest bit of improvement for like a month and then go backwards, that month that I counsel them on improvement, now they actually show a positive moving forward. Now I have to read, like it's a very long process.
I appreciate it. I understand. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
And so my point is to that is, imagine how much time and effort is going into trying to let these people go versus running that organization. Right now, you're taking all this time and effort into sifting through all your people instead of you can let them all go right now. You're not going to have any. You might have a few, but the amount of lawsuits you would have if you tried to go through and sift and let people go for things that they would deem, people can argue whether or not it's justifiable to let them go or not. You would be looking at so many court cases, you'd be getting sued. I mean, it would just be a domino effect of craziness that would come instead of just cutting it off, letting it go, moving forward. And I like to say those good people that got let go, I know it's horrible and it sounds horrible, but generally the way it works, those good people go back. Those good people end up back in a position somewhere. They're hard workers, and that's why they're good people. And so they're not just going to end up on the street. They're going to end up probably back in that field, if not back, taking over somebody's job that they were able to go, this guy is shit, and we got to start letting this guy out. But when you have, we'll say 100 of those shit guys versus 1,000 or 500, we'll say 200, whatever, it's a lot less to sift through, and you can start getting them out and then start bringing in the heavy hitters and the people that you actually like. Because I guarantee you there's some people that are like, fuck, we lost Mike. All right, but this guy sucks. Let's get him back. That's probably what you're seeing. But you have to make that initial
reduction in force. Yeah, reduction in force.
Now we can start fucking going to the next step. And I think the one problem there's two things that I see with this whole scenario that's always interesting to me. One, nobody's patient. Right? We're at the very beginning of this thing, right? And everybody wants to react to the initial things that are happening instead of seeing. The one thing we know about Trump is we don't always see the overall big picture of what he's going to do, but we do know that sometimes, and even then, we don't see it because he's splashing in a different direction or he's saying something that people are like, I don't even know what the fuck he's talking about. And next thing you know, then you kind of start to see, that's what's happening.
Well, read his book. He tells you, I'm going to come in. I'm going to ask. I'm going to be the most obnoxious thing in the room, so that when we settle in the middle, you feel like you've won, and we're still where I wanted to be. So, the best thing you could do with him is just wait and see where he lands.
Where it ends up, yeah. I mean, and you got to give him a credit. Yes, people can argue, he's been bankrupt before, how much money does he have? But he is a guy that's ran very successful businesses, right? And so he knows better than I do, better than any of us here, I would imagine, on how to go about running a efficient business, a tight business, and stuff like that. So is he going to get it perfect? No. Is there people better than him? 100%. But nobody better than him has come in the last 50 years to be able to actually make the cut. Because the problem with that I see with government is you have to have the stones to be able to make waves. And if you don't, you kind of just sit stagnant.
Yeah.
and you just go through your 4 years. You end up being the people that we can't stand in the government jobs that fucking just sit there and go, well, I'm the fucking head of this now. And you see all the, like, are you kidding me? You look at those inefficiencies there. That's the craziest shit, that list from fucking Doge of the inefficiencies.
But this is different. These inefficiencies that I have aren't people.
I understand that. I'm saying it's management of the company is what I'm trying to say. That mismanagement is why those people got let go.
Hold on, I'm going to humanize this for you for a second, Mike, right? Because what you just did is change your perspective. You flipped from this side of the table to that side of the table, right?
Yeah.
Because you're concerned, and I love your heart, dude, and I mean that genuinely. I love your heart. You're concerned about the people. I can tell it's the people that bug you about getting
and us being safe and
right.
things
I know,
running
I know,
well.
I know that about you too, but I can tell it's the people that getting fired is what bugs you there, because that seems to be this. Maybe not. Maybe your heart is dark. I don't know.
It beats me as a manager. For many years I've been a manager. Very much bugs me. I hate to
I just watched somebody walk out the door and I hated it.
Do you want to know what bugs me is that I'm buying into it being efficient. I feel like it's not being done efficiently.
Well,
I'm into let's fucking do it. Let's.
But
I don't think it has.
But this is
give you an analogy to this
you're
firing
talking about
thing.
Past or right now?
Right now. I don't think it's being done efficiently this early. I think.
But like I asked you before, how would you do it?
I can't. I don't know. Oh, I do know. I'm sorry. I would sift through it and take it a little slower. I know. I appreciate that you feel that it's dire that we do that now.
It's not that I feel.
Okay,
it is
a choice.
As far as letting feel it's not dire.
Letting people go legal.
I could have the other view.
But you're allowed to have that other view. But I think what we're trying to say is that in this situation where you can feel it's not dire, but you don't have the option to act like it's not dire. Like you have to do something. Like it's not like I don't want to do this because I'd like to do it efficiently, but I can't do it. Sorry, I'm banging on the table again. I can't do this because I don't have the resources. Like I am literally bleeding out at this moment. I have to do something drastic. What are you going to do?
I think this.
But that's people too.
But it's inefficient people. I believe that this shit is inefficient. I do. But I don't think this was efficient that they did with the layoffs. They're different things. They're different.
That brought layoffs too.
That brought the layoffs?
Fine, because they weren't efficient.
Right.
And I'm fine with getting rid of
the... you don't have any money.
But there were good people. There were good people here.
That's money we're not going to be spending anymore. We don't have that money back.
I have the savings. Look at the
we'll save moving forward, but you don't
so
have
we
that
are
money
bringing
yet.
I know we don't, but we are going to have that money because we're cutting inefficiencies.
But we're not because we're $1 trillion in debt.
Okay, we're going forward fiscally more efficiently. Like, right? We're getting rid of this bullshit.
Right.
Okay. I'm for that. Like, I'm on your guys' side. Like, I went in with this intention of having the bad Doge cut list long as fuck. I don't. I actually have the good Doge cuts as my long one, so I'm with it.
And
it's being done efficiently. Yeah, we're saving money,
right?
In the long
ultimately,
term.
Yes.
Okay,
yeah,
which is different. It's the people that were cut that I thought were inefficient. Can I give you an analogy?
You can give me an analogy.
Okay, there's this giant.
It doesn't change the law, though, and that's why
I'm not talking about the. But just listen to what I'm going to say. Just listen to what I'm going to say. Just okay.
Let him.
Okay. There's this giant rock.
Okay.
Right, and there's this guy hiding under the rock. Okay. He's doing nothing. But there's these guys on the outside.
So Joe Biden's under a rock. Okay, got it.
No, the government worker that does nothing is under the rock. Okay. And all these probationary people are holding up the rock. Right.
Okay.
So now you let all the probationary people, what's going to happen? The rock is going to fall.
Can I ask you a question?
What?
Why are you so in love with probationary people? And why do you think that they're actually doing good? Because that's a misconception.
Have you ever worked in a job where you're on probation?
But I know me. Okay. You know me, and I'll work. That's me.
Okay.
And I can speak to me. But I know plenty of people that were on probation.
Then they don't pass probation.
That's not true.
Okay. We're just not going to agree. Like, I feel like I'm saying, like, very, like, plainly how I feel.
Don't you?
It's not that I'm in love with probationary people.
Well, I was going to say, but you don't think that any of those probationary people are the people that that have been the people we were talked about, that are even in probation for their next management job, that are those people that we're talking about that just have gotten hired by the mom said it's a great job, but do this, and they said that. You're telling me none of those probationary people were
I'm not saying that, but I'm saying.
Go ahead. No,
finish so I can say what you want me to say.
No, I wasn't going to talk. I was saying.
You sure?
Exactly.
Because it looked like you're about to talk.
No, I was saying yes. I'm agreeing with you. You're not saying that. But what are you saying?
I'm saying the probationary people are there to backfill the people that are shit, right? If you get rid of those, if you can figure out how to buy them out, you need these probationary people.
They're probationary. No.
I think it is a peppering of people from the bottom
All
to the top.
aspects, Yeah.
I just, my feeling, maybe I'm wrong, is that the probationary people are the answer to fixing it.
They can be.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with you 100%.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with you 100%. That's not the right way to say it. I don't disagree with you. But to his point, just because they're probationary doesn't mean they're the answer.
Then
because
You could argue the
I've
other
just
side of
been
that
through
as
a
well.
program where we brought in a group of trainees and had to sift through, man, there must have been 30 of them. And out of the 30, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I'm going to say 10. 10 of them survived because they were efficient enough to make it to the next level. And out of those 10, there's probably, I'll say 6 that are really excelling. So out of 30 probationaries, you've dwindled it down to 6. Now, if nobody's there pulling the weeds and dwindling the probationary people out, what you end up with is 30 probationary people with this spackling of good and bad and indifferent and maybe good. So, like, let's say just a bell curve. You got some that are bad, you got some that are okay, and then you've got some that are great.
So what'd you do? You sifted through the people and got the correct ones.
Right, because I started
Took
back in
some time.
1970.
Well,
Right.
here's my question.
I think that's a disconnect.
What if you got let go, and a probationary person took your job?
And they were the better person, right?
Is that the way you feel?
I don't know. Was I sitting there doing nothing?
No, you were busting your
You
ass like
said
you do
you're
right
Well,
now.
then I shouldn't have gotten
But-
fired.
but-
But you weren't
Right.
talking about the ones that you guys are mad at, the ones that sit there and do nothing. That was your thing. That
I'm
they,
not mad.
that
I'm
you
saying
thought they were
that's-
inefficient.
I'm saying I'm not mad at anybody. I'm saying managers have to be managers, and they have to have the ability to be managers. There is a common conversation between government and state a lot of the time of employees that you hear that common conversation about just come get a job here, you're good, or these people don't even do anything, they can't even get fired, and they know it. I hear that I've heard it many, many times, right? So if that means that managers aren't given the power to be able to manage effectively and efficiently, right?
Mhm.
So because they should be able to let those people go. There shouldn't be any job where people are just safe. That shouldn't be a thing.
Okay, I'm with you.
Right? In the end, the one thing that is true always is there is no. If you take a whole organization, it's probably 50-50. There's 50% of the organization that are rock stars, and there's 50% that are fucking mediocre at best or shit.
I bet you it's lower. I bet you there's 20% that
Could
are
even be
rock
that.
stars.
Could even be that.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is so they're not able to make those changes. Partly because of legality issues. That's the way that it's set up. So my point is, again, the probationary people, it's not that they're probationary. It's not who they are or anything else like that. It's only that they're in the status of probationary. And by being so, they are allowed to fire them because otherwise they have to keep them and they still can't fire the other people. So you're not making any cuts whatsoever. You're in the exact same situation you are and not making any change.
I understand what you're saying. I get it.
Honestly, I think you guys are saying the same thing. It's just time frame is different. There's like he's at the urgent end of the stick,
Right.
and you're at no. I've got time. I want to do this right, and I want to make sure that I come out of this with the best people possible.
Right.
I think where we're at is on the other end of it, where we've gone past the point of having the ability to take the time. And we have to do something sharp. And it's unfortunate because, and again, I'll go back to the point we made earlier. I hope somebody, when this all happened, somebody went to the good ones and said, hang tight because this is not over.
I hope so too. And
Right?
I could see that being happening. But
this is just, we have to do it this way. Just hang tight. Give us a month. We're going to bring back the ones that are good. And that's what I hope we're seeing now.
If you look at this from and this is total hypothetical, right? But you can look at it from another aspect as well. One of the things that I feel like I've seen in patterns over time, especially over the last, I'll say we'll say 8 years especially, but is every single time, especially like with Trump, we'll say he starts to ramp up on something. You see the other sides of the house start to pile up barricades and everything they can in any way, shape, or form to hinder the things from happening, to stop the things from happening, to reverse the wheels of progress in a sense.
Which
Blame
Trump
us
is
for
not.
everything.
He's not going to face because he has the House and the Senate, so he should be able to.
He should be able.
He should be able to.
But
I mean,
do-
he's.
But
he
I
can.
could see that just as much as it's a military, when we do a shock and awe campaign, the
Mhm.
reason of it is that, boom, we're getting it done fast. You don't have time to react, right? And so I could see that in some aspects, flying, going as fast as you possibly can. You prevent organizations, other politicians trying to step in, the courts trying to step in, trying to prevent you from actually making the change. If you sit there and dwell on it for too long, they just mount a defense against you, and next thing you know, you're sitting there juggling back and forth. It seems like for way too long. And then
Can I ask you guys a question?
yeah.
Do you think the checks and balances should just not be a thing? Are you okay with them not being, like Congress keeping the president in line, the courts? Like you said, the courts get involved. Do you think the courts shouldn't have a say in what's being done,
As far as
the legality of what's being done? Because you just said the courts and the senators get in the way. Do you think that should happen, or
no,
you don't believe in
Not-
checks and balances within the
I do believe in
government?
checks and
Three
balances, but I do
separate.
I do believe the court systems have been used to chase political agendas versus just actually beef.
Yeah, I 100% believe in checks and balances. But to his point, I don't think the checks and balances we have going on now are true checks and balances.
The Supreme Court is
1970.
in the conservative majority, right? Why wouldn't you trust it to make decisions?
But see, here's the thing: is
Because
that
they've been doing it for 7 years wrong.
here's the deal. Like
Checks
I
and
don't,
balances has been around for 200 years.
I don't think that.
Probably been a lot longer than that.
Right. Here's the part. The problem is not the fact that the discussion is not checks and balances. The discussion is who's doing the checks and balances. We can talk Republican and Democrat. We can talk left and right. We can talk liberal and conservative. We can do all of that. But the problem comes down to corruption, length of time in service, and the comfortability of where you're at and the incentives you're getting that are persuading your decision. Because if you guys are here to check and balance what I'm doing, and I'm trying to make a decision on what boat I buy, and you're getting incentive from the boat manufacturer, and he's getting an incentive from PETA to save the fish, right? Like, are you guys truly going to be giving me an honest opinion about what I do? Like, you're going to be all for me buying the biggest boat in the world, and he's going to be for me writing laws to save the fish. The checks and balance there is no longer. There's checks and balances. You guys are checking me, and you guys are balancing me. But the balance isn't real. And I think that's where we're at now. It's like, I don't care what side of the aisle it is. Like, I'm a conservative, but I truly
Get
believe.
out of here! You're a conservative.
Yeah, in case you didn't know that. Like, it's a.
I think I knew that.
It might have come up once or twice. But I truly believe that the problem isn't. I want to throw a rock in the pond so bad, but I'm not gonna.
What do you mean with what you're saying? Just say it.
I think that. I think that we're so twisted that people have been made to believe that you are either left or you're right, and if you like Trump, you have to be a right, and you have to be right. If you like, if you're left, then you have to like Kamala, you have to like this, you have to be pro this and anti that, and if you're any of those, that's the category. There's like you're not allowed to meet in the middle, and I think that's what. At least for the three of us, there's something that we started talking about before the show started, was that I appreciate the fact that we can have this conversation, and when this is all over, we're gonna still be friends.
Yeah.
Right? 100%. Like that's the way it should be. That's how conversation. That's true checks and balance, because I'm hearing you, and I said it before the show. There's a lot of things you said to me that have made me rethink the way that I think to draw me closer to the middle, but at the same time. I feel like there's things that I've said or that Stearman has said that have drawn you closer to the center. And it's not the fact that we're trying to change each other's mind. It's that we're just seeing each other from a different perspective, and we're trying to be compassionate and understanding as humans, right? And that's where I think the checks and balances need to be, is that if we're going to have people doing checks and balances, they need to be an unbiased person that's willing to listen to both sides of the story and do what's best for the country and the Constitution.
Yeah, because we're I agree, we're so divided.
Yeah. It was weird. I came up to this thing the other day. I was like, it may be like pie in the sky kind of thinking, but I feel like I'm only a Democrat or Republican for 1 minute when I vote, and then I'm an American trying to like live and let the system work.
Yeah.
That's
And
the person you should vote with, though. The person you are the rest of the time.
Well, no. Up to that moment, I made my decision. Like, I'm going to be a Democrat right now, and this is what I'm voting for, and I hope it works.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I'm going to buy into the system and let it do what it's doing.
But my point is,
I don't
why
think
do
I'm a Republican or a Democrat right now. I'm just in the system, watching it work and hoping that it plays out the right
But
way.
why do you feel you're a Democrat when you vote?
Because at that moment, I've aligned with the Democrats. I'm like, okay, right now I'm a Democrat. This is what I'm doing.
Well, why can't you be on both sides of the fence?
No, I'm just saying you have to pick because you have to vote. You can't vote for nobody. You have to vote somebody
Right,
at that
but
moment.
If it's a Republican president that you like, and it's a Democratic senator, and it's
I
it's
got
more
what
of
you're
a
saying.
conservative
Okay, yeah,
law,
that's
and
interesting.
it's
Yeah, but I've made my decision at that point. Now I'm moving on, and now I'm just like living within the system and trying.
right. But I think that's what people. That's the problem I'm talking about. Is that when you step, everybody's like, oh yeah, all year round, I want to do what's best for the country. But then when I step into the booth, it's like, okay, I'm a Democrat, so I will vote Democrat. I will vote Democrat. I will vote Democrat. I will vote.
I don't do that.
There's a lot of people that do that.
I
But
don't do that.
But
There wasn't, and I think like the micro initiatives that
sides.
are more conservative, I definitely voted for. I'm like, no, this should not happen. Like,
and that's correct. I
Yeah.
think that's how it should be. You should vote based on your moral compass, not
Mhm.
on your political.
I was for not
Compass.
doling out money this time I voted. I was like, no, we don't need money there. We don't need money there.
And my thing is, I guess it's interesting. Like, from your perspective, like leading up to do you feel like the media was truthful to you or less truthful?
No, I think I said this. I created this echo chamber where it just told me what I wanted. I watched
No, I'm
all
saying
this
I'm
stuff.
saying looking back now.
Looking back now, is I insulated myself with what I wanted to hear.
But what do you feel that was actually? Do you feel like they were lying to you? Or do you feel like there was more truth to it? Now that you're seeing things,
I feel like it was just a narrative that I filled my head. Whether it's right or wrong, I just wanted to hear what I wanted to hear. And I don't know. It probably was a lot of. It was just to build up somebody to vote for somebody, and I made sure that I heard what I wanted to hear to reinforce my decision.
okay. So, but do you feel like
And it might have been wrong. I don't
do you
know.
Feel like it was a manipulation?
I manipulated myself.
But,
yeah,
but you're not. You didn't.
Yeah.
Because you were just as normal as every.
Yeah.
There's millions.
You didn't
of
write the
people out there.
algorithm.
There's millions
No.
of people out there that. Are
I was
saying
manipulated
the
by
same
the
things.
algorithm. If that's what you're asking me,
And
yes.
so the thing that I find interesting with that is that, and I get it. Like, you can get into conspiracy theory shit and stuff like that. I'm not trying to do all that. But what I'm going to say is that
to so bad.
we can.
Why?
okay.
We can do that.
We can totally do
can
that.
talk about
We can
whatever
totally
the fuck
do that.
we
But
want.
my-
Steve doesn't care. Our one listener, Steve,
Yeah.
he loves what
Well,
we
that's
talk
fine.
about. So do it.
But the thing I find it really hard. It's like, okay, raise a kid. Like, they get older and they start to. You ask them, they can actually lie. They figure it out, right?
Mhm.
And
When they're one, they figure that out.
well, and so as you raise them, you're like, you've lied to me a couple times on these scenarios, and you start not to trust. You're like, I don't know if I trust you right now, right? And you start to probe a little bit, and then next thing you know, you'd be like, they lie all the time either, or they don't, and if they lie all the time, you're like, that's bullshit. I know you ain't telling me the truth. You can
Mhm.
almost tell. And so my thing is that I found interesting is that I feel like there's been a lot of, we could even not say, we could play nice and not say deliberate lies, but we could say that they tried to alter people's perception of things, push a certain narrative as well. And I do feel like looking back on it, you can kind of look at it and go, well, that was bullshit. And that
Yeah.
was some bullshit. And even though that's there, people will still sit there and go, oh yes, I believe 100% that Trump lost the election. Right? And I'm not saying he did or didn't. What I'm saying is the fact that these people have been lying to you and you're starting to see it, right? Is there nowhere in that you can go, well, I don't know what the fuck. I don't know what the hell y'all done. Y'all done some shady ass shit.
Mhm.
Nobody wants to admit to it.
Mhm.
I mean, even Chuck Schumer, we're saying he's sitting there and he's just you cannot totally bash this. You cannot totally bash Doge.
Mhm.
That's what I'm saying. You can come at it. I would respect the guy that
You
goes,
poke holes in
I
it.
don't agree with all this. But,
Mhm.
That's what I'm doing right now.
I can
You respect me.
that. Right.
Respect.
But if you just sit here and go, this is utter bullshit, then you're sitting there screaming at the top of a hill, but you ain't trying to fix shit. You're doing the same. You're the problem. You're
Yeah.
the guy that's under the rock.
He's probably
Is it-
he's probably scared he's gonna lose his job,
He should
right?
be.
And
He should
he's
lose his fucking job. He's a piece of
he's
shit.
sending out messages to his people, mobilize or I'm not going to be here.
Well, no,
I'm going to tell you my experience with the social media.
But one more thing too.
All right.
Do we feel like it's my problem I have is the minute that this stuff starts happening, everybody starts they just start bashing the shit out of it.
Mhm.
Whatever happened to let's see what happens. let's be Americans. It's our president, right? Whether or not you like him or not, he was elected by the majority of the country.
He was.
Letting to see what happens instead of just bashing it. How's that helpful? Would you tell your children to do that? This is behavior that's just not necessary. Like, and it's not even factual. When you're going to sit there and tell me and yell at me and talk shit and say that none of all this stuff from Doge is going to cause more problems and harm, that's bullshit.
It happens because they don't like him, and he made himself
100%.
very unlikable.
Well,
and unfortunately,
pushing another person's agenda versus the United States of America's agenda.
Karl Marx teaches to accuse your enemy of what you're doing.
Oh yeah, that's huge. That is 100% huge.
Yeah.
The guys that talk
I totally believe
pedophilia the most are the guys that are fucking doing it.
Well,
but I want to talk to one just real quick. So you talked about like the narrative and not being lied to and stuff. The day after the election, I fucking stopped following all those echo chamber websites that I was watching and listening to. And then I started just watching overall news. Yeah. Instead of just
Google send you a message, say, where'd you go?
Yeah, they're like, please come back. No, and what I noticed is that those echo chambers focused on that teeny little thing that they thought was wrong. And they didn't think about they didn't say about the good things that are happening. So I have a different point of view. I'm looking at things differently. I'm looking at overall. I'm listening to the other side. And I think that was healthy for me. Just I do not follow those people. There was two people in particular that said exactly what I wanted to hear all the time. And
if you're going to follow one, you got to follow the other side just so that you can always make sure that
the checks and balances
within
society. But when I was talking about checks and balances, I was talking about governmental, constitutional checks and balances, which I was interested if you guys still believed in.
I do.
Sounds like you, John, does not.
I said I did.
But I think you feel like the apparatus or the people that are doing it are not.
Here's the problem. You have multiple different types of people, right, that run and shit. Mm-hmm. They all want to have their own list. Yeah. How are you supposed to have checks and balances when everybody has their own check?
Because the way the Constitution is written, we're supposed to be the checks and balances. We, the people, are supposed to be the checks and balances.
By your vote of Senate and President. But
correct.
The other check.
By the person that we elect to represent me.
The judiciary portion checks the other two portions, right?
Right. You have you've got the checks and balances, and then you've got the legal side. Yeah. Right. You have the law, right? But the law is supposed to be written by people that represent
everybody.
Us,
yeah.
Right.
And then the law is enforced. Yeah, I understand. I just wonder. You don't believe in.
I do believe.
You believe in that.
I believe in checks and balances. I believe that we don't have it right now.
It's not. That's what I'm saying. You don't believe it's happening.
But it has nothing to do with the fact that the House and the president are the same side of the aisle.
Okay. No. That's.
I believe that it could be different. It could be the same. It could be Garfield the cat. It doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. It's so going to be. It's messed up at the core. So because that's the point that I was gonna the bomb that I wanted to drop, right? Because I want to make you guys imagine something real quick. Okay. Just think for a second. Go back to when Biden was elected, right? That January morning when the rioting masses with their pitchforks and their fire.
Please don't start this.
No,
discussion.
I'm gonna. This is the bomb that I wanted to drop, right? Just think back when those angry mob, hateful, despiteful people marched on the Capitol. Right? I'm being horribly sarcastic with that because it's not what it was. It was a peaceful march to the Capitol. Now, stop there because from what happened at that point changed history, changed the way I've been to the Capitol since then. And you're talking about some of the most skittish people, rightfully so, because they were, that was a crazy ass day for them. What if it was never instigated to be as violent as it was? What if there was a peaceful protest on the steps of the Capitol to tell the government enough is enough? We've had it. We're tired of your lies. We're tired of you being there for 60 plus years. We're tired of being spoon-fed bullshit. What if? What if we had a massive group of people? The Capitol's a beautiful building, and to see that type of protest on the steps of the Capitol with the passionate we the people standing there saying we have had enough would have changed. It would have swung power back in our direction because it would have showed the world and it would have showed the country that there are people that still want this country to be great, and it doesn't matter what side of the aisle you sit on, we want the country to be great.
It would be democracy working.
It would have been democracy working. So what? But at that point, they had no choice to listen. And you know how I know that? Is because, and this is where I'm going to put on my tinfoil hat, right? It was instigated to be something violent so that the value of that event was lost. It became violent because now at that point it is that angry mob with pitchforks and torches and
That's
MAGA
the
hats,
same
right?
thing
And
the
it's
other
just
guys
yeah, it was instigated into something that it should have never been because it took the power away from what it was meant to be. And that is because I think truly the country, and it spoke this election, that the country is tired of the crap, and it doesn't matter what side of the aisle. We're all just tired of being spoon-fed bullshit. It's time for change. Because if not, like your kids, my kids, your kids, they're all going to grow up in a country that the three of us did not sign up to fight for, because it's just going to slide down a hill. I was reading CNN last night, and it was interesting. I'll see if I can find the article, because there was a quote in there, and it caught me off guard. I think I still have it up here. Hold on.
And I think it's healthy. Like, I don't watching news just while he's looking this up, like outlets and stuff like that. Like, for example, like Jesse Waters is his name, I think, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've listened to him on and off, and he's good. I like him in some ways, but at the same time, I don't love the way he is kind of like bashing and demeaning sometimes. I don't feel like that's the place of the news.
Yeah,
Like,
but you're right.
you can have a podcast and kind of do that stuff.
Rachel Maddow's like that too.
100%.
She's
And I've
very
never liked her either. And she's really bad. I've watched her a lot. My mom's a big fan. She's pretty brutal. But I've never loved that aspect. And the funny part is the minute, it's funny that news, the minute you can tell, I'll be sitting and listening to news, and the minute like a report comes on, like it's just kind of cycling through YouTube, like the next one pops up, I can automatically know the minute I ended up on a station that's anti-Trump.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the news. It's not just the news.
Usually
news,
they got the
news
picture
with
of
an
him. He's
agenda.
like this.
The news
Yeah.
with it's the news with an agenda.
Orange.
Yeah.
That's pushing a narrative that's their narrative versus just, hey, this is what's happening.
I feel like when we were kids, the news was like 45 minutes of just facts and what's happened, and maybe for like 5 minutes they'd have like the commentary guy come on and be like, this is just terrible and blah blah blah. And now it's like 45 minutes of this is just terrible and like 5 minutes of what's happening.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
like
they don't do
switched.
fact check like they used to anymore. You
Yeah,
used to have that
because they're
that-
trying to rush to get the story out.
Right,
They're
it's-
trying to beat the other
It's
guys.
who's going to make the biggest splash.
Yeah, and the
who-
quickest.
Yeah, who's got the best headline? Who's going to make who's going to draw the most viewers?
Mhm.
Yeah, that's absolutely what news is.
And they say the attention span of news nowadays is like 48.
Yeah,
I'm surprised it's that.
I would. Yeah, I think that's.
That's
yeah, I thought you were going to say 48 seconds.
I too. I was like,
like,
how
oh,
long
yeah.
is it?
it's like 2-3
basically-
minutes versus like if you're gonna look at the scrolling of like a TikTok or something.
Yeah.
TikTok
I
real
think
long.
less,
Yeah,
but
I think that's what
less.
news is going to become is just a TikTok reel.
But
It
I mean,
kind of is because I when I speak to other people, they're like, "Well, I just heard this guy say that." I'm like, "But did you hear everything he said? Like
Mhm.
what he was actually trying to say?" Well, no, he said this, and
Yeah, I saw it on. Yeah, I saw it on my
TikTok.
Instagram reel, and that's what he was saying. Well, did you go back and look at the context of it?
Mhm.
Yeah, what he said before and after it. Yeah,
I mean, I just think, you're starting to see a lot of. I don't know. I feel like you're starting to see a lot of inefficiencies, and I get it that Trump can be stern and he can be flamboyant in a sense, like he wants to create the splash, like we talked about. But I don't know. I feel like in some ways, like when you watch these people, like even these some of the mayors and governors and stuff like that, and you watch them, and it's like they don't have a fucking clue. Like it's almost like he has to say something fucking derogatory to them for them to even figure out what the fuck's going on. I'm like, like even when I watched the town hall in the sense of the whole thing with the fires and the mayor there, and he's like basically telling her like, what the hell are you doing? Like he's like, let the people go back to their homes and clean up their shit, like get their stuff. Let people help, and he's like basically saying like, no, we're not gonna wait for permits and shit forever. We clean this thing up and let people rebuild if they want to rebuild. Like we're gonna take 3 years for permits? No, sorry, Coastal Commission can fucking pound sand. And he's like, but you need that. You get that. Granted, you can look at that as hostile, right? You can be like, oh, that's not necessary. You either get that or you get the person that's like, oh yes, well we have to go to the Coastal Commission.
especially.
But then the question is why the fuck is the Coastal Commission even there? There's these agencies that have been created, and a lot of them, the craziest part is, you look at it, they were created for like one purpose that was supposed to be like limited, and they've been there for 30 fucking years. You know what I
they
mean?
probably found ways
we have-
to justify them being there still.
Since we're on the
Get it?
topic, we're going to talk about we can talk about the high-speed rail for 1 second. We have a department. We have a department of high speed, and it's been here for fucking 20 years almost.
Did you know?
I think it started way back.
That
30
department
years
has.
possibly.
Did you know that? And this is old statistics. This is probably at this point no longer accurate and even worse. But when I heard the statistics, it floored me. At the time I heard it, and I can't remember how long ago, it was a couple of years, the high-speed rail would have to run at a higher efficiency than that of Japan's, right?
Yeah.
Which is like, I think the most it's ever been late is like 3 seconds. It's something
Yeah,
ridiculous,
super
right?
efficient.
It would have to run at a higher efficiency than Japan at 100+% efficiency for 20 years for us to even break even. How are you going to get that kind of ridership and accuracy on a train that goes from Modesto to Bakersfield?
Not to mention, people don't really ride the trains much.
Right.
Well, I think they think it's going to be more
Touristy.
road more because it's going to be more efficient and
If it
cheaper
went-
than going on a plane.
Yeah, if it went from Sacramento to San Francisco or San Francisco to L.A.,
It's supposed to go to San
absolutely.
Francisco to LA.
Oh, yeah, it's supposed to be. It's supposed to go Sacramento, San Francisco, and then it's going to have a route to go San Francisco to
Sacramento, all the way down to LA to San
to
Diego.
yeah. The leg I saw was kind of like a
I think that they
Yeah,
don't
but-
even have stations figured out yet
no.
where they're going to go.
They kind of do, but
And believe me, I do not agree with this train. I think it's unneeded.
I rode.
So you know why Japan got it? Because they had the Olympics and there was a hard time getting people places. So they built it because of the Olympics. And they've kept it all these years. I
wanted-
don't know why we need it.
to Tokyo to
So,
was
yeah.
Was by the train, by high speed train. I think it was 3 hours. Driving it
Maybe
is
two.
10 and a half. Because we were just looking at it. We are trying to see if we wanted to go on vacation there, just
Dude, I want to
because
go to Japan.
I want to go so bad.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful culture,
I'm getting a
and
plane right now.
yeah, I might walk or swim.
But the funny thing was how Trump,
staying off a
he's
bone.
like, it's going to $200 to ride the train and $3 you could fly for $5. I was like, what the fuck? It's a hyperbole. He speaks.
the-
It's like really like, what? Come on, dude.
the ticket was $150
Yeah.
to go from Tokyo to is it Hiroshima or Hiroshima?
I think it's Osaka. I
There's
don't know.
Osaka. I don't know. Anyways,
Possibly. I could
that-
be wrong.
the whole country is longer than the state of California by quite a bit. So I mean, I can totally see why they have it. But my point is that there's no way we're ever going to get that kind of ridership out of it
No, I would agree.
with the amount of money it's going to take to get it to from somewhere we want to go to somewhere we want to be. Like or somewhere we're at. It's just going to.
In Japan, it didn't even make sense.
So-
I looked at the price to ride it, and then I priced out a flight, and the flight was cheaper.
We went to this last summer, 2 summers ago. We went to East Coast. Went from Washington D.C. We spent 4th of July in Washington D.C. It was absolutely amazing, and we rode the train from Washington D.C. to New York.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh, it was badass. But we
Did it stop
look-
in Philly?
it made like I don't know. We were on one that made like I don't know 6 stops. Like you have the choice. You can do an express,
Mm-hmm.
and it gets you there like in less than 3 hours, and then you take the regular one. It's like 3 hours, and then there's one that stops at every stop, and it's like 3.5 hours. We did the whole. It cost us I don't know. I think it was like $80 for the train ride.
Yeah.
And if you getting to the airport there in Washington D.C., getting to the airport there in L.A., taking the ride to the hotel was longer by airport door to door than it was the train, because the train dropped us right into the heart of Manhattan, right?
Yeah.
So we get on this train, you literally just walk on, right? Security is
Right.
fairly simple. It's nowhere near what the airports have become. You get on a train. I had as much legroom as I do now. I had my cell phone. I had Wi-Fi if I needed it. I had a bar cart that was about 2 cars back that I could buy an affordable drink in if I wanted it. We did 125 miles an hour up the coast of the United States, up the eastern seaboard, on a beautiful ride. It was awesome. I sat there and watched, like, you roll, because it's the railroad, right? So you're rolling through some of the oldest parts of town. You see, like, you see the good, the bad, and the ugly. And it was an absolute amazing ride. And I'm going, dude, why don't we go to L.A. this way? Turned to my wife. I was like, this is the way we're going to go to L.A. next time. So I get on my phone because I have Wi-Fi and I've got my cell service. And I look it up. And I'm like, okay, to go from Sacramento to L.A. is going to take me just about 2 days.
Yeah,
it's
it's
going to take
crazy.
me a cab ride, a bus, a train. I'm going to have to walk somewhere. I'm going to have to, hitchhike the last 10 yards. It was ridiculous. So the California, we do not have it set up efficiently at all for trains, and I don't know why. I mean, there's trains
everything's-
everywhere.
I think everything's more efficient on the East Coast. Like their roads, their cities, I feel like is way more thought
It's
out.
well more established. I mean,
Yeah.
it's-
Yeah, it's been around a lot longer.
Yeah.
Washington D.C. was amazing.
Yeah.
Like we didn't even rent a car. We did the scooters, and
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it was like everywhere you wanted to go. It was New York's that way. New York, you walk everywhere.
When did you go? When were you
It was
there?
like I think it was 2 summers ago. We took.
I was there last summer. I was like,
Yeah.
we could have had lunch.
I can understand I can understand the concept of that stuff, but it's like one of those things. But you take that down to it's like you still have, even with that and all the people screaming, like, can you bring up look up what the votes were on the California high speed rail. They were
Dominic, you're doing awesome
they're
over
very
there.
close. You are doing. You're Dominic's the rock star, by the way.
Yeah, can we get a round of applause out there for Dominic, please?
Steve, start clapping.
Steve, would you mind clapping for us?
And he's growing his hair out. He's going to donate it to kids.
That'd be cool.
He's gonna donate it to me.
He got the locks over there.
So what are you looking at?
He's gonna build me a
Johnny?
wig.
So it was a 52% yes and a 47.38% no for the vote for the initial California. Right?
Mhm.
And that was at a cost. I think it was. I think the initial cost was
14 billion?
14.3, something like that, right? Around 14.
22.
And now I think
22
what's projection
billion.
is like 30.
No, it says 22 billion was public work bonds for the next 10 years.
But that's the public work bonds. But they just get a portion of that.
Did include a 14.3 billion.
But
Is a lot of money.
but regardless, we
It's a lot of zeros.
the project has gone from I want to say the initial was like 14 million to like double, if not more, right? And so my thing is and this is years later, and you still have politicians, even though people are like, this doesn't make sense. The federal government's like, this doesn't make sense. We're not going to give you guys funding to do this anymore because you guys have in a sense, you've overstayed your welcome.
Mm-hmm.
And so 9 billion was initially allocated through the vote, right? And so now, and what was the initial cost supposed to be versus current, or what it's projected to be currently?
According to Newsweek's fact check, it is currently at 135 billion.
So so to 135 billion dollars, and yet you still have, and there's so many people that are like, this doesn't make sense. This doesn't make sense. And you still have people that are just like Newsom. California needs a high speed rail. He's still sitting on the. And is it? And,
Tom just made a good argument for the high speed rail. You thought riding the rail was good?
No, it is,
not the
but we
train.
don't need this. Like, I think we have the railway in place to. So part of the problem is rights to the railway.
Yeah.
Like
you completely get stopped if it's like
Yeah.
Union Pacific.
Yeah,
coming
if
through.
you
You're done.
you're what is it? Somebody was telling me they rode to Midwest
Seattle?
somewhere, and part of the problem was they would sit for 2 hours while they waited for a freight train to go by. So it's part of its rights. You know what I mean? Like, we've got to figure out,
Because they're sharing certain aspects of the track,
Right.
I think, right?
and then you've got Union Pacific, and then there's there's
All of
all
them.
sorts of different private
Yeah.
and stuff like that. Yeah.
But my thing is like, at what stage do you actually have to come back and like revote for this thing?
Well,
You know what
I'm
I
going
mean?
to say now, because right here it says there was a 1,600-foot section that cost $11 billion.
And that's the station, I think, or just in Merced or something like that, or Bakersfield. And that's my thing. It's like, that's inefficiency. You know what I mean? It's taking you how long? In the time, the craziest part is, now I'm not saying that I'm not saying the Chinese standard of building one, or creating something, it might be better than ours. It might not be. I haven't been to their subways, but I haven't heard horrible things.
Making
about
no accusations.
it. Yeah.
Well, you wouldn't because they're
But I'm saying-
communists. So everything's great.
Dominic, Google how much high speed rail track has China installed in the last, we'll just say, 10 years?
They've got quite a few,
It's like 22,000 miles.
but they pay their workers like 2 cents and they
It's
get it built.
irrelevant.
No, it
It's
is
the
relevant
ability-
because they can do it
No,
easier
no,
because
it's
they have.
It's irrelevant in the sense it's irrelevant in the time frame.
Holy crap.
Dude, I want to do a deep dive into the Belt and Road Initiative that China has, which is, I don't know if you guys have ever heard about it, but that's gonna be how they become a world dominance, is what they're doing right now. You need to look at it.
Belt and Road?
The Belt and Road Initiative. They're making inroads with all these different countries, connecting to them and giving them money like we do with USAID. And their main goal is they're trying to get mineral rights inside countries. And
Thank you for making that large for us old people.
Yeah, it's gonna be. It's scary if you really think about what they're doing. It's very, and like I said, their commodity is people. They can give you people to build shit cheap because they have tons of them.
because the people have to.
Well,
because they have to.
They don't have, yeah, there is no.
But my point to that is why I say for the amount of track, how many miles do we actually see how many miles it was?
For viewers at home, it looks like spaghetti.
Yeah.
How much?
I'll build the map with
We
my
haven't-
fingers.
We're working on getting this.
There
we
you
can
go.
put this up on the screen, but it probably wouldn't be a picture. Probably more of a report.
Just give me a whiteboard back here.
But
I'll draw.
I want to say when I was listening to it, I want to say they like put in like 22,000 miles of track or something like that. Oh wait, China's
48,000 kilometers.
Yeah,
Here you go.
28,000 miles.
Beautiful artwork.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so my point is that's since I want to say it was like 22,000 since the time we voted on the California Rail and they started the project. So my point to that is
Damn near
only
28,000 miles.
we're only going what? A couple hundred?
I don't even know. I feel like there's
Through flat farmland.
Flat farmland.
Yeah.
I get it. You had to acquire it and blah, 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 which that can take longer. China probably just says that's ours. We're taking it. I understand.
Yeah.
I
There's no
understand.
regulation. They're like,
I
don't care if it's.
There's potentially differences,
Hmm.
but still 20, almost roughly 30,000 miles versus a couple hundred. It's just doesn't make sense that wasn't able to be pulled off. And that's what I would
completely
call
to the regulations that California has.
mismanagement. And so even with all that mismanagement, the crazy part is you still have people sitting there and telling you that they've done a great job and telling you that everything's okay. It's like, dude, just fucking come out and say what the fuck happened that was wrong. We can all see some shit's fucked up. Just tell us what the fuck's fucked up. The minute that you start sitting there and trying to be like, look at this picture and not that picture over there. You're fucking
What was the
trying to sleight of
projection?
hand.
What was the projection we voted on? Like how much were they? How much did they? How long did they say it was going to take when we voted for the initiative?
I think they said 10 years.
I have it in my
years.
whole paper receipt. We should have done that.
God damn it, John! Well, why did we start
I
talking?
want to say, I don't even think it was 10 years. I want to say it was even less.
It was less.
Yeah.
I know it started like they had like
They couldn't even build a bridge across the bay
It's
in 10 years.
171 miles.
400.
Compared to
Right?
China's
So
25,000.
it does say initial opening segment is 171 miles.
Right.
So the total is.
That's that yellow spot there in the middle between nowhere and nowhere.
Well, and on top of that, like, how are you keep pushing? You have no funding.
And I want to go back. Can you scroll back down for me real quick? Just that map right there in the middle. I just want
the China map.
like this is the
straightest,
straightest and the flattest part of California that we're building on,
totally
and it's
farmland.
taken like I don't know, it's forever. And here we're gonna go through the mountains and into LA where there's no free land
see,
anywhere.
I think that was their biggest mistake, and I actually think that it was also a ploy to try to make some money because
Really?
who the hell? Yeah, who the hell's going to take? I love many aspects of California,
Yeah.
but Central California is boring.
Yes.
Okay, and I get it. That's farmland,
Mhm.
and I appreciate and I love the farmers, but. And to be honest with you, they probably don't want the rail going through there. They
Oh,
don't want to go
absolutely
through
don't.
Los Banos.
No.
They don't want to go through Merced. They're
No,
like,
they're
what the
losing
hell's-
trees. They're losing farmland
and
and losing water.
you go through so it's kind of there's nothing there. There's nothing there. There's small towns that have been left behind.
So it's the easiest part to build in,
Yep, it's the cheapest part, and that's my thing.
and
It's
and this
different.
is where we're at.
And so my point to that is, yes, Tom's experience on the high-speed rail sounded amazing.
Yeah.
You ride that motherfucker, it ain't going to be that amazing. It's not right. If they wanted to make it amazing, you
Go down the coast.
You go up that coast.
Well, and
You
just
can't.
how-
why you can't? It's too much money. Regular.
And also,
I-
they already have a railway going.
I need to clarify. The train I was on was not a high-speed rail.
Yeah, it was just a regular rail.
That was just Amtrak.
Okay.
It was an electric. I want to say it was like electric over diesel or electric. I'm not quite sure exactly
Okay.
what the locomotive was.
Well, good to
but
know.
it's just that was just Amtrak.
Yes,
like-
yes, that's yeah.
Yeah. So it's
So
And you can do that.
You
You
can
can
do
do
that
that.
here.
Oh, absolutely.
yeah.
But like you said, it takes 2 days. It's
100%.
ridiculous.
and
crazy.
to build the high-speed rail, you're talking. It's got to be like there's certain grade limitations. You know,
Right.
The rail has to be perfect. It's got to be straight, and the radiuses of the turns have to be so. And so, like it's absolutely integral that if it's going to be doing 200 miles an hour, that it's on. So in that line of squiggly marks there in the middle of California, you may be doing 200 miles an hour for a minute or two, and then you're going to have to go back down to a regular train. So why not invest that money, to John's point, out towards the coast, make that pretty little jaunt down the coast all the way down the western,
Because
seaboard.
John said it's too expensive. It's expensive.
But there's already train lines out there. Like all you got to do is just take and
You'd have to reroute the other trains, unfortunately.
wide the tracks, put another set of tracks in.
That's the other part too.
More expensive than what we
I
got
agree.
here.
I mean, and that's the other thing too.
Fast train to nowhere.
You have that where they try to answer. Oh no, we're about to lay track down and stuff. They don't tell you it's temporary track. It's not the real track. It's actually going to be. They haven't actually even figured out who's going to make that yet. You know
it has
what I
to be
mean?
perfect.
So it's just the whole thing is it's just mismanagement, and that's part of the thing.
Inefficiencies.
It's like, and it all comes down. It's the same. That's literally the California high-speed rail is the problem with the American government in a nutshell.
Yeah.
One thing was voted on. People are riding this motherfucker till it dies, even though it makes no sense. Anybody that's going to sit there and tell me the California high-speed rail makes sense? Oh, I'd love to have that conversation. Tell me where and what and when. Where's the recoup? There is no recoup. I'm sorry, but there's never a recoup on $130 billion for a fucking high-speed rail.
20 years at 100% capacity on time every time in order for that one section of the train to make its money back.
And I would want to know how many riders that is. Is that full?
Yeah,
No, 100% capacity. 100% capacity. So you and I can't remember what the capacity of the train was. It's
ain't gonna happen.
Yeah, there's no way.
There's not that many people.
You're not going to have 100% ridership when it becomes San Francisco to LA if it ever was to come that. Now, you go LA to Vegas, I wouldn't want to be on the return train home, but that probably would stay pretty full.
Yeah, I would agree. And that would be a connection that people would probably use. I could see being used more regularly.
But still not a great, I mean, it's, part of it's flat, but you still got to go up over the mountains.
Yeah.
How do you do high-speed rail in the mountain? You're able to do
a lot of dynamite.
Tunnels. Gotcha.
Tunnels.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's Disneyland. Look, that's where it lands, Disneyland. They're counting on all these Disney adults going down to Disneyland.
Well, and I'm sure there's thoughts on, as it goes through all these small towns throughout Central California, we're going to spike up. Well, the small towns there's not a whole lot there.
They are promising that,
restaurants and all stuff like that. And I get all that noise, but it's all just fucking
Look out, Los Banos. You're going to be a vacation destination soon.
You're not the bathrooms anymore.
Well, and I ain't got nothing against it. I don't have anything against it.
I don't have nothing against it, but I mean,
like that. Country towns are country towns. I lived in a country town.
Farm town.
And people would look at it and go, this isn't nothing. But at the end of the day, like Los Banos isn't, there's not a whole lot. If you have a comparison, let's go to the coast and look at the coast. And let's go to Los Banos and look at Los Banos. I'm not going to take a train through Los Banos because I've driven through that a million times. Yeah. I don't even recognize I'm through Los Banos until I see, that's the bathroom.
I don't think they're thinking about it being like an enjoyable ride. I think they're thinking about being an efficient, quick ride. Like, who cares where it's going through? That's probably what they thought,
But what are you going to do?
They try cheaper lane.
For the
that's what I'm saying. They don't care what it looks like. They're just like, let's get there.
For the next 30 years while they build from Bakersfield to LA, am I going to rent a car in Bakersfield?
See, I don't think they are doing that because what they're doing, the High Speed Rail Authority. See, I did my research. The High Speed Rail Authority, their whole little job they do is they go out to like Merced. And they're like, these are all the things that we're going to hypothetically do for you. And these are all the jobs that are going to be created.
No, I was talking about like the aesthetic of drive. You said you wanted, like, it's boring going through there. I don't think they care about how it looks.
No, I think they do.
Really?
I think that ultimately they want to blow those places up to be more.
How do you make this
the more
now? So if you look at the trajectory of California, Bakersfield, Merced, and in that area right there around Fresno, is the next area to blow up in California because it's the only place in California that young people can afford. Like,
let's go buy some houses.
Well, that's what people are doing. Like, it's like that's gonna. The Central Valley is
place in California.
It's the next place for young families that are trying to grow and start, because they can't come up here north because we've been blown out of the water by all the Bay Area people that are moving. Bay Area is still blown up with, it's still extremely expensive. LA is ridiculous,
leaving the Bay Area
and
as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, vacancies is growing.
Our prices up.
Yep, because everybody's coming this direction, and so the Central Valley is the next.
It's cheaper.
It's cheaper.
There's no footholds for the most part. You're going to come through. There's failing business. There's businesses that have been the mom and pop shops forever. Businesses that are barely making it. You're going to come in. You're going to try to put in restaurants. You're going to try to put in places at these stops so they look beautiful. That's at least, I guarantee, their goal. Now, if it's anything like the California rest stops, you're going to fail at that shit.
Aren't those things crazy? How long it takes for those things? I drive to Disneyland
they're scary.
multiple times a year, and
I don't stop there.
Well, no, they're just fucking closed forever. Yeah. Like for fucking 4 years, this one rest stop is not ever opened.
They're repaving.
Well, and not to mention
one shuttle at a time.
It's crazy.
Have you driven across state a lot to like other rest stops and shit?
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
like beautiful most of the time. Like,
Oh
you go
yeah,
to
New
Mexico,
Jersey's. Those are
Arizona,
great.
They're just you
A
go.
lot
you
of gay
feel
sex
safe.
happening in those things.
Well, I don't know.
That's the thing. You don't know.
But I know you're talking
It's
about
a
the movie.
good running.
There's
It's another
in
it's another topic for
But
Jersey.
you go in, they're all very well lit. There's not like graffiti everywhere. Everything is nice. There's like information and stuff about the area.
Dirty
You go to
metal
California,
toilets.
lights are fucking flickering. There's fucking graffiti on the wall. There's some dude that's shady that's in the bathroom that you don't know if he's a fucking
Exactly.
janitor or if he's, you know what I mean? You don't get that at the place. And I'm saying, so it's like, it's all inefficiency.
Mhm.
It's just like, what are you doing? Like we spent, even then, there's two ways to get to my, and this is just stupid, but and we're almost coming anyways, but there's two roads that go to my house.
Mhm.
One of them that pretty much everybody used normally to get to my house, and then there's another way you can go that's a little bit roundabout. There's a bridge. There's a single lane bridge on that road. 2 years ago, something happened and it like kind of washed out a little bit, right? They have repaved the road next to the wineries by me and everything else, and took away the bumpy road signs by the winery and everything like that. That fucking bridge is still out. 2 years later, no inkling. That live there and actually pay the taxes in that county to be able to have that stuff fixed, and you don't fix it.
Yeah, that goes back to politicians that probably either own the wineries or tied to the
Bought into it,
wineries
know
or
somebody.
whatever.
Money, pay
It's
taxes.
all about money.
Mhm.
And that's where this Doge, the end of it, I think Doge scares people because they're gonna get caught with their hand in the cookie jar. I can imagine you see that. You haven't seen it yet, but I guarantee at some points there's gonna be some suspicious ass shit that comes out probably.
Yeah, there's
So you get
definitely a
people
lot of
scared.
like repeat offenders on
Yeah.
these cuts. Like
Yeah.
I'm like, God damn, who are these people? And
But-
it's millions and millions
Oh, yeah,
of dollars.
39,000, 11 million, 6,000.
And what is that? Just
1
the
million.
real estate?
Yeah, this is just in the real estate department. And I was going through it last night. I was checking, and it's a lot. It's all just leases on. Like there was one group of them, and I don't know where it is because they all start to
This is
kind of
all
look.
millions.
No, this is dollars, actual dollars.
And are you
Yeah.
looking at the savings or what?
This is.
Because you can do savings or spend.
I think
Go to the top.
I think this is savings. Yeah, if
Well,
I go to
go up,
I'm savings.
we go up a little bit more. Or roll this way.
Oh, this way.
Yeah, no,
Scroll
not this
down.
way.
There you go. Yeah, so that we're saving. Yeah, okay. So you're saying no. So we're saving. The Department of Justice in Kansas City, we're going to be saving $1.2 million. With the Department of Health and Human Services, we're saving $2 million. And that doesn't mean we're getting rid of the Department of Human Services. If you go in and you look at it, there was a couple of them I came across. They're taking them out of a building and putting them into a government-owned building. So they're paying a lease on a building that's not owned by the government,
Mhm.
and then they're moving them to a building that's owned by the government already that has vacancy in it. So, like, why would you not do that already?
Lease for $12 million.
Right.
It just says more.
Well, this is your favorite.
Well,
the,
no, the
the
other thing-
DEI cuts.
The other thing that was
Right here.
crazy, too.
True termination, move to federal space. So they're saving. The average lease cost on this was $1 million a year. The total savings is going to be $1.1 million, and all they did was terminate the lease and moved that department into a federal building.
It's good. I like it.
And we've saved $1 million. Like, but to our point, go back to like, why are we 50 years into this and we're just now doing this? Like, how
I don't
many
know.
millions have
I'm
we
for it.
spent?
Well, it was like one of the things, yesterday, or I think it was yesterday before he did it. Trump did a thing. He was giving out Social Security numbers. Did you see that?
No.
And he was talking about. He was reading off the age ranges of people that are still on Social Security. Now, he also said that he was fair in the sense that he said that these are people that have been identified that are still in the system, but they have people that are 100. There's like 36 million
Oh, yeah,
people
yeah,
that are
yeah.
like over 119 years old. Or
So-
something like that.
You know what?
And
one
they're
thing I
still
heard about
cashing the
that?
checks.
Well, that's one of the things he said. He wasn't. They hadn't verified yet whether or not those people were actually receiving checks, or that they were just like in the system and hadn't been removed. And either way, he was saying
No,
either way is
The one I read
inefficiency.
said they were actually sending checks that were being cashed.
So something I heard was, and it was from somebody that had worked within the system. There's some flaw that if you there's a birth date that you put in, it will automatically go to like 1849 as the year. So it looks like they're 150 years old, but it's a real person that the system couldn't correctly categorize. So that
Programming
is a
problem.
small anomaly, but that could be part of it.
I'm not sure there's not one-offs,
Yeah.
but it's like when there's like millions of them. Because
Yeah.
there was even one of them where he was like, one person is 330 years old. He goes, that's older than the United States of America, so I don't know how that really works. But he goes, so they've been around a long time. But
that's the one thing that
could be a
also
glitch, right?
Yeah.
The one person.
Yeah.
But when there's millions of people, it's a little suspect. But maybe they're not
millions of
getting
people could have that birthday that's just
paid. And maybe they're not getting paid.
But to that point, though, why are we not fixing that? Because
Why
how are
are
you
we
going to
not
keep
fixing it?
track of
Right.
our
because
money?
my
'Cause
uncle
that's our
has
money.
the contract to do that, and he keeps getting that contract.
It's going to be fixed
No, who cares? He just keeps getting the contract, and
Over and over again.
Yeah.
over and over. Yeah.
Why he doesn't want to fix it? He won't get the contract.
yeah, you won't get
No,
the
I got
contract.
it. Yeah.
No, my
but
guys know how to fix that. Give us some time.
Yeah.
We'll fix
It's deep dive into.
But that
the
also, what
programming.
he showed was a spreadsheet that could be manipulated by anybody. I could build a spreadsheet and say there's 3.5 million people with this that are 150 years old, that's the transparency part that's hard for me versus this thing that automatically links to what they're doing. Something that I can't get it to link to.
Well,
There you go.
I'm sure that
That
spreadsheet.
links to exactly what, and then you can look this up.
Yeah, I don't doubt
Contract.
I don't doubt when they release the. I would imagine because this is like this that when they release their SSI
Yeah,
findings, you
I
will
hope
see
so.
something similar.
It might be kind of might not be able to put that out there because it's
You won't be able to
people's
put
information.
names out,
Yeah.
but you'll be able to put like
There you
personnel
go.
wise or whatever probably.
So this is the website. Sorry,
But-
this is the website that like shows you the exact contract that was canceled.
Steve.
It's pretty dope, and it's the transparency that makes me feel better now.
Yes,
About it.
and I agree with you. And I would say, and that's why I say I liked that when listening to Trump, he made a point to say he was literally, the numbers were pretty staggering. Like I would almost say YouTube it after this and go Trump's SSI numbers, but there was like millions of people that were over like 130 years old and stuff like that.
Dominic, bring that up.
And so look it up if you want to real
That's-
quick. But one of the things that I appreciate that he said was that he didn't say that they were necessarily getting paid. He
Mhm.
did make the point to say we don't know if they're getting paid yet. That's still part of the audit that's happening. But if they are, well, that's something we need to fix. And if they're not, well, this is still something we need to fix, right?
Mhm.
So
Yeah, I mean it's interesting.
bring up, it's probably search Donald Trump.
Well, hold on. Before you go anywhere, I just want to back to the point of like the garbage in stuff. Scroll down just a little bit. Other way. Scroll up. Sorry. Right there. Stop. So right there. Trump's plan to kill Social Security benefits. Like, again, just
What's
shock.
it say inside there?
Well, I don't know. It probably has something to do with what we're talking about, but they're just going to take and it just goes back to that topic we were talking about of like they're going to feed you the topics you think you're going to want to read.
Don't you think it's funny that I always find it interesting that when the report that I read is people upset about no taxes or tax cuts, when the reality of it is we really don't want to pay more taxes. As people, we don't want to pay an obscene amount of taxes. We do now.
I think they're scared of who's getting the tax cut.
Well, no, well, I mean, yes, when the shit's not running right, 100%, that makes sense, right? But the fact is everybody should get the tax cut. Is the point?
Yeah,
right?
but they're afraid that like the upper percentages are getting a better tax cut. That's what
No,
makes them freak out.
I understand what you're saying with that concept. What I'm talking about is you're talking about tax policy. I'm talking about when somebody's trying to say, like, let's not do taxes on tips and Social Security, right? And people are like, that's unacceptable. Da, da, da. I find it interesting that when politicians are screaming about taxes and cutting them and then how it's not okay and da 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 da, but when the reality is, I guarantee you, if you took 100 of your constituents and put them in a room and you asked them what their common problem was, it would probably be that they don't have enough money or that they have problem making ends meet, and that if they didn't have to pay as much taxes, their lives would actually be a little bit better, possibly. Not to mention spending wise and stuff like that. Like inflation's there too.
Or if we just actually saw something from the taxes we spend.
But my point is every single it's interesting when I feel like there should be no tax. 100%. There should be no tax. Local taxes on your county. That makes sense. That's where you live. Pay your county taxes. The county maintains it. You get to vote at a local level. Your voices definitely should be heard at that level and everything like that. Government level, the government ran for a long ass time with no taxes from us. They ran 100% off tariffs, and they ran off making their own money. At one point, the government had so much money they didn't know what to do, and that's when we started rebuilding other countries. And that's when we started spending all our money. Look up the last time the government was in a surplus of money. How much money was the government a surplus at their peak?
It might go to 19. That one we see 1998.
No, it was
that
was a long time ago.
Not the 2001 surplus. Look, just like when was
we just looked at it.
When was the U.S. budget at a surplus?
It's
no, before that. No, before that.
Oh, so you're asking? Well, you're asking
historic in history.
The budget was at a surplus, but the bank account wasn't. We were putting money back in the troffer, but we like
surplus probably isn't the best word.
Yeah, look up debt. When was
the government debt free?
Debt free.
1835.
The U.S. state government was debt free in 1835 during Andrew Jackson. The first and only time the U.S. history that.
So what's the point you're making? I want to hear about this.
Oh no! So at one point, the government was not ran off taxes.
In 1835, it wasn't.
No, beyond that as well.
Well, let's talk about what you said. The last time that we had, we were debt free.
The surplus.
You guys said last time was debt free. You brought up the time. All right, what was happening?
When did we start?
You were talking. He was bringing up the point that we were operating without taxes.
Right.
And
were we operating without taxes? Then?
We were in 1835.
When did the federal government start to operate off taxes? To help pay for the Civil War.
Okay.
And it was not supposed to be a tax that continued, and then it continued, and then they just started creating more and more taxes in different avenues to benefit your lives. But the government had a surplus of money. And if you look at it, even when Trump talks about it, when he talks about, our actual debt versus what we actually could be worth, how it's not that big of a number. It's actually true. We are, as a country, we could be worth so much more than what we are. It's just that we tried to outsource everywhere else and not actually utilize our own resources. We try to outsource everywhere. Otherwise, we could be worth so much more. We could be like Saudi. Look at Saudi Arabia.
Oil, I was just say oil. We could be right up there with the.
Saudi Arabia has no debt. They have like a surplus of like $1 billion or some insane amount just sitting in a bank account.
What do you guys think about Trump maybe paying people back with the savings of Doge?
I think it's huge.
I think that it is a testimony to how inefficient we are actually running when you can spit that kind of number to every single person that's working in the United States.
What was the number? What do you say?
$5,000. $5,000 to every working person. And what I love about that is he's saying every working person, which means that it puts people, motivates people to go back to work.
I heard both. I've heard both. I've heard every United States citizen. Imagine it's every working person. The United States citizen was just speaking off, not hitting it on the head. They say $5,000 each, which it is what it is. But I think it's a necessity, because this is what I think you're up against. But people are already up in arms, and people are already like, "What? You want me to pay taxes now? Like after seeing all this bullshit you're spending my money on?" That is like that. That's like I said. What did we say? USA is one of the biggest ones that's really set a lot of fires, and that's 0.2% of the overall.
They're the top
budget, right?
No, I think it's
not that much. 0.2%.
I know, but I don't think it's
$40 and $70 million.
Oh, I don't think it's the top of the budget.
No, they're the hold on. Top 10 agencies.
Oh yeah, agencies. I thought you meant at the budget.
No, and
it's a very small percent of the budget.
They're also top 10 the contract savings.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Yeah.
But
that's also soft political influence. You guys know what that is.
Well, so my point is, though, if all this money, like we didn't even go over the crazy money, like, like the stuff to do transgender and like.
I had it. I know. I was waiting. I had it teed up.
And like Costa Rica or wherever the hell they were doing all that different stuff. Mm-hmm. We're not even going over that crazy money. But my point to it is, how can you not have a problem with paying taxes when that's happening? They literally say it's basically $1,000 a month is what your family pays
to go overseas
for everybody else.
Yeah.
For the kids to go leave
what do you guys think about soft political influence? You think it's important? Because we create this hole in that now, and now China's going to jump in there and start 100%. Soft political influence, and that's where we start losing our foothold globally.
I see that as the reason why Trump's trying to be, people are freaking out about Greenland and people are freaking out about the Panama Canal and stuff like that. But I do think that that's the counteraction to what he sees China doing. China's trying to get their feels into the Panama Canal and trying to take over. I think that's where he's like, people are like, oh my God, he's trying to invade the country. And the reality is he's looking at it like, look, we either this is going to be an invasion left or right either way. Either it's going to be there in X amount of years down the road when we have to fight over it, or we're going to do it now before it's actually more embedded than it is with whoever's trying to come in and get their fingers on it. But yes,
Who do you want to control it?
you want us to control it or China to control it?
Mm-hmm.
And that's
but we
where,
might not, because now we're cutting these soft influence, political influence programs, and now, like I said, now China comes in and starts saying, "Oh, I'll be your daddy. Don't worry, I'll take care of you."
You're right. They're going to. That's what I'm saying. They're going to try to, but that's where Trump's saying, "No, we're going to take it."
But here's the thing:
And we gave it to you. We're taking it back.
Where did we get by going to all these different countries and saying, "Okay, yeah, sure. If you support us, we'll help you out." Where did it get us? It got us into a massive amount of debt and inefficiencies and corruption and everything else. So if that means that we have to, and what has China done in that entire time? They've turned inward and they've done nothing but rebuild themselves, and they've made themselves strong.
But they've also, I'm telling you, you got to look at this.
No, I'm not
initiative. That's
what I'm saying is that
they're turning outward right now.
right.
But
But that's my point. If they turn
That's what he said
outward, that's fine. You know what? You go spend your money on those people. You go do what you have to do. We're going to turn inward, and we're going to let's start making sure our money goes to where it needs to go. Let's make sure that the resources we have here in this country are being used to their maximum capability. Let's make sure that the people are getting exactly what they need, and let's start rebuilding our industry and our exports to what they should be. And take a note from what made China as strong as it is now. They focused on themselves. If they want to go spend their money on avoid dropping all the other crap that's out there in the world, then let them go spend the money on it.
But
they can go into debt for a while, and we'll rebuild.
They have debt too. They're in a lot
They
of
do,
debt too. But
Yeah, but a lot of their debt is held by us.
We owe them a lot of money
Yeah.
too. Yeah, for sure.
So I don't know. I'm just saying that our enemy gets stronger when we pull out of these places, because their big thing is mineral rights. They want what those fucking countries have, and that's why they're building trains and to go to those countries
100%.
and saying, "Hey, we're going to pay for it,
Yep.
Yep.
but you're going to have to pay us back,
because that's how you. Rule
and when
the
you
world.
don't pay us back, we're going to take your shit."
So then we need to be strategic about what we're putting money into, and not frivolously putting money into just.
But
anything and everything.
our play was softly, "We'll help you out with this, send money over there, and now we're going to be the ones that get your shit." I mean, that's the game. Everybody's just trying to grab little pieces of the board, and the more we pull back with these, I'm saying some of the shit's weird. Like, I'm not into it, right?
But what pieces of the
hold
board
on.
are we trying to pull? Just like for some
Like
of them
Africa, they have crazy amounts of silica to build chips and all this
Right.
kind of stuff that we need. So when we influence them, we're their friends. We're going to get something back from them.
But that's
And
just trade. You can
It
do all
is,
that with
but
just
now
trade
when
and
we
not have to
stop
give them
doing
any
it,
money.
when we stop,
Trading with them, we just stopped giving them money for free.
Yeah.
We're still trading
we're
with the company.
yeah.
with
Well,
these
no, we
countries.
might once we stop giving them stuff. Now China starts giving them that stuff for free. It's
and
going
so
to happen.
be it. But that's where.
But then now they get the shit from.
But that's where. But see, that's what you're not. That's where Trump is good, and he says you will do business with us.
But they probably
Yes.
won't, because they got a new daddy.
Everybody's not.
But I'm just saying, I don't agree with
You can argue who people fear more as a daddy. You could argue that. I don't think people fear China as much as they fear us. I'll be honest with you about that. There's a lot of people in China, but I don't think they fear China like they fear us.
Okay, well they should.
Maybe.
They should fear China.
Maybe.
Like, maybe they're not hip to it, but I don't know. And I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm just playing the other side. I'm just telling you what is out there and the possibilities.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying. I mean, we're not talking about a specific topic to agree with or not necessarily. I mean, the money you're talking about putting out is not necessarily all the money I'm talking about. I mean, there's a lot of
there's
some
talk about USAID.
USAID is not all trying to just get us.
I don't think that they're all soft.
That's not what you're
political
saying.
influence.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no way. There's a lot of fraud in USAID. That's the problem. I think USAID was initially created to do something like that. But I definitely, if you go down that list, I mean, pushing a DEI fucking agenda in another country isn't getting us any soft rights and shit.
I think it goes back to saying, back to the corruption of your question about checks and balances and really anything, is that somebody has to go through and figure out where the corruption lies, because USAID may have originally had a good agenda. You just don't have fingers for.
Go ahead, I'm listening.
I think that it just, with corruption, everything that was maybe good at one point in time is no longer being used for good entirely. Some unbiased individual has to go through and make sure these places stay out of corruption and stay efficient. And
one of the things
that's the thing I like about the DOG. To go back to the topic, is the fact that we have somebody that's at least looking at this stuff and bringing this stuff out. Like I also
like that they said initially, now it could change, but I did like that they said it was going to be a temporary organization, but government organization, and then that once it completed its task, it would be dismantled, versus creating a government program that just hangs around for another 50 years with all the people that initially were part of it.
Yeah, and becomes another part of the whole inefficiency of everything.
You start using it to dabble in other things, right? It's this, and it's the same thing they do with the military. I mean, think about it like this: the minute that your job isn't mission critical,
you're out.
And then you're tasked onto something else. They find things for you to do, even though it has nothing to do with anything that you've necessarily trained on or that. Like one minute you could be a certain missile repair guy, but they're not using missiles. So next thing you're on an IED disposal team. Yeah. And and you're like, what the hell? So
this is all the stuff that USAID. And like I said, I know there's some weird shit there. I'm not saying that it's right. I'm just saying that, they broke the system that was supposed to do that.
Well, I think that's fair to do, but at the same time, though,
I'm saying the people that were running it broke USAID and now it got cut. I'm not saying that.
Buy into maps.
For
read it. It'll tell you $12 million. EIA buy-in to M-Maps. Residents contract DEIA call order to MAP BPA to provide general support to the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion and Accessibility.
And this is the thing that I started honing in on is, what is that? What is this LLC?
Yeah.
Who runs it? Where does it come from? And I just want to say something, and I know I don't want to get in an argument, but do you think that all these contracts are being cut? Do you think Elon Musk and his friends are going to backfill those contracts? Or do you think it's a possibility they could?
No.
Really? I mean, you don't think he could tell his friend, hey?
I think he could.
He could.
Anybody could.
Absolutely could.
You asked Will. You didn't say could.
I'm sorry. Do you think he could?
Yeah, of course.
He's got enough money to do.
That's a scary thing that he knows exactly where the money is. Well, potentially, hold on, where the money potentially is, how he can get to it, the kind of contracts that are there, and he could say, hey, and build this company.
Give me an actual.
I don't know. Go look at any of these. Like literally this contract.
Like you're gonna give a.
I know. I am. Okay. There's this. Okay, he's worth billions. He can create any company, or he has friends that can make any company.
But why would he be doing that?
To make money.
We're just making that. Look, I don't want to do that. I don't want to talk about hypotheticals.
Why? Why not? I mean, it's interesting to talk about a hypothetical that could happen.
Hypothetical like that when it's not even something that's.
See, I didn't want to argue. I was just saying, could it happen? So we'll drop it.
Yes. But
no, let's just drop it. It's good. No, I didn't know the answer. I asked you how you thought.
Hey.
And I think you don't understand. I'm just giving I'm just saying it. I don't necessarily believe it. I'm just saying, do you think it could happen?
Okay,
That's it. I said yes.
Can I? SSG Capital Advisors, which is the owner of this, which is the LLC on this contract.
But what you don't understand is by saying it that way, you're implying there's an implication there that he would do that. And if somebody's listening to you and you're talking about that,
I'm going to give him the idea. Yes. Steve is going to run out and make a company.
Look, you can make fun of it,
that people might think that there's criminals out there that would do that
already? I'm sure there are.
If I could think about it, somebody else could. And it was just an idea.
Thinking about it is fine. But when there's nothing going in that direction, and then you speak about it like that, you're actually planting seeds.
So I can't have a thought? You're going to fucking say I can't think
I
something and put it out there and discuss it with you?
It's fine. Putting it out in that light when that's not even.
So I don't have free speech to talk about something that could happen?
Not with somebody. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you have every right to say what you want, but I don't think it's necessary to put something that's like a negative aspect on something that's not happening.
Guess what, John? Negative shit happens, and if you think about it before it happens, maybe you'll stop it. All right, and it was just it was literally just a question.
No, you're painting a negative picture.
Negative shit happens every day, all the time. And we're talking about, hold on,
but
you're talking about all these crooks in the government now.
Yeah.
So we get rid of them, and it creates a.
But that's something that's happening. We're looking at it.
Exactly. There can be other ones.
But he's not. doing. You're not seeing any inkling of that happening. So
now
why are we talking?
we don't, but
So
he
when
could.
we do,
Anybody could.
When we do, we could talk. Yeah, Mike, you could leave here and murder somebody. It doesn't make
Of
you
course
a murderer.
I could.
I'm
And
not
I
gonna
just
plant that
asked,
in
do you
somebody's-
think it could
I'm
happen?
not going to plant that in somebody's head that you.
Oh my God. All right. I'm a criminal mastermind. I'm Lex Luthor. I just told everybody how to take over the government. I think you could just make, it's an option that somebody could do it.
Yes, Mike. Anybody could choose to do right.
Sorry,
versus wrong,
damn.
or wrong versus right. I agree with you.
Sorry, I
That was
talked
the
about
question?
Elon Musk negatively.
Okay.
I thought you could, and I wasn't even talking about him. I said he could tell. I don't know. My bad.
Let's take a look. I want to. You asked what SSG is, and they're an investment firm, and they're into. I know Pegasus. I'm looking at some of their investments here. Iger, Bio. I don't know. I can't read. My glasses suck. Harrison Senior Living.
That in a time where we don't need that, we need positivity of the things that are happening, and to be like, well, what if this hypothetically happened? I feel like that's what's happening too much now, and people sit there and get hung up on that shit. Look, you can feel that way. I understand that, and looking at it, and you can even sit there and go, I'm going to see how this plays out. I have a feeling this is going to be this way. I think that's 100% okay. But to put out there a certain scenario where, oh, well, don't you think that he could be doing seedy stuff in the back? Sure, anybody could be doing right from wrong. We know that, but that's a common human question. But it doesn't have to be that Elon Musk would do that, because there's people out there that think that, and then because he's probably locked out.
He's locked out.
There's people out there that think that, and if we plant stuff like that, they take it and they run with it. And that's why I'm just saying you got to be careful with, is there merit to that statement or not, is my thing.
Yes, there's merit to that idea, to thinking that something could happen. Go ahead, say what you're going to say.
Yes, I agree with you.
Okay, then
You can
I
always
can
think-
talk about anything. I can bring up
You
a scenario.
can, but
that-
that doesn't mean that I have to think that it's right to say something in a negative light like that. You're allowed to think it. You're allowed to speak it, everything you want to. But I just don't agree with that statement.
Okay.
To say it like that. And that's all I'm saying. Yes. I mean, the question you asked me is basically, can somebody do wrong versus right? That's what you're asking me, right?
I just said, you think that because
Will somebody do wrong versus right?
sure, yeah, that's it.
And the answer is yes. But
Okay.
to say, do you think Elon Musk and all his cronies are going to, they have all this money? You don't feel like
It's-
that's kind of painting stuff in a certain direction that doesn't necessarily, there's no reason to go there
Okay.
necessarily, right?
All right. So Biden is a crook, right?
I don't know. I
But
haven't
isn't that
seen-
what's being said, that Biden's a crook? His family's a crime
That's
family.
what's being said. But
But you don't believe that?
I don't know. I don't know the facts of it. I don't think that people should be making claims about it. If it's like the Hunter Biden laptop thing, right? That was always the thing that's being claimed. People try to they'll try to go back and forth on it. It looks like there is some legitimacy there. That can be so for me. Okay, have the topic of the conversation. There's something that points in that direction. Let's investigate. Right? Makes sense to me. And but before the investigation's over, I don't believe that you should completely.
I didn't
We're-
slam him.
We're in a place now where people take things if you say something, even though it doesn't have a lot of weight behind it, even though it's just a thought process, they take it and they run with it,
Mhm.
right? And people can get canceled in 2 seconds, right? That's just the way things are. So my point to that is, I think the safe thing to do when it comes to social media and talking about stuff and talking about people and everything like that is, if there's something that's on the books that's noticeable, there's something that's happening that you can investigate into, I agree with it. And I think that's smart to bring up, and it's smart to have a conversation. But when there's something that there's no reason to believe that that's a thing.
You're saying I'm not smart because I just thought of something that.
No, I didn't say you're not smart.
You just said it was okay. Go ahead.
I said there's no reason to believe that. What gives you the reason to believe that Elon Musk would want to do that? Just because he could? Or is there
Because he
actually a
could.
reason
Yeah.
anybody
The question. I know that.
could? And so that's why I don't feel like.
Well, actually, not
Elon Musk would.
not anybody could. Like a ultra rich person could do that. To create companies and backfill areas where there's contracts that are open. But Bezos could do that. I'm just saying, do you think when these holes are created, do you think having this knowledge of where they are, they
I
can
think
just go
that's
in
a
and scoop
narrative
up? And
that I think
it's
that's
not a narrative; it's a
I
question,
think
and it
that's-
came from me. So
But
I'm
I've
not
heard-
listening to any kind of
I've heard
narrative.
that. I've heard
This is something that came up while I was driving over.
I've heard that narrative of this is both including Elon and Trump
Mhm.
and other people, that they feel like, they're trying to make money off of this. It's always them trying to make money off this. And how are they making money off it? And I hear that narrative, and I don't think it's not a healthy narrative in the sense of that we're not seeing that happen. We're seeing them try to help and save money as far as we can see, right?
It's the
The
beginning
minute
stages.
that changes and it brings up a thing that's questionable, it brings up a thing to look at. I 1,000% agree with you to go, I feel like this is looking like this. That's an assumption. Looking at the facts that you're seeing, I can, like, for example, I could say, with all these plane crashes, I'm starting to feel like it's like, what are they trying not to get us there? Trying to make us feel unsafe to fly? Is somebody trying to do that? Yeah,
So-
maybe not, maybe yes, but what's happening makes me go, there's a whole bunch of planes falling out of the sky all of a sudden. That's not normal. Is there a reason why?
Yeah.
But I'm not going to go in the direction of somebody's they're going through the government, cutting a bunch of money, but I think they're also trying to make sure they're not making money in the back end. There's nothing for me to go that direction. There's no reason for me to go that direction. So why would I? Why would you?
Because there's all these opportunities to make money, and I'm just wondering, would they do that? And that was just a question. Like, I'm not putting out that they should do it or not saying, hey, this is what you should do.
Okay.
This is just what I was thinking when I was thinking about the good cuts, bad cuts, all the cuts. Where does that money possibly go? Can they create this LLC called Tom Johnson LLC?
As far as we've been told, they want to put 20% to fucking back. They want to pay 20% down to pay down the budget. They want to put 20% to the American people, I think is what it was. And then the rest of it they want to use for the future budget so that the spending in the future years is not.
Let's see how Tom feels about this question. It was just a question. What do you think about what we just talked about?
Again, I hate to stand in the spot I'm sitting, but I understand where what both sides are saying. To John's point, I think that it's really common right now for people to ask questions like you're asking, right? But the problem is that in this, sorry, I didn't mean to bump you. I think in this day and age, when you plant seeds of doubt like that, there's too many people out there in the conspiracy theory world that'll run with it. Right now, I mean, like if if I wanted to try to convince you the world was flat, I could go find information on how the world is flat. And people that claim scientific proof that it's flat. Right? And so when you start asking questions, unfounded questions, and I'm going to get to where I agree with you in just a minute. So don't.
I'm listening,
so,
dude. I
appreciate
it.
When you ask unfounded questions, you potentially open the door for people to run with it. And again, going back to our earlier conversation about TikTok news, like it's you create an atmosphere that could create doubt where there should not have been doubt. Now, with that being said, I don't think it's ever smart to stop asking questions and to stop thinking like you're thinking, because that's what keeps people in check. That's checks and balances, right? Like, okay, could he do that? Yeah, he could do that. Is there any proof that he did that? Like, and then you do, before you ask the question in an environment where someday, more than just Steve is watching, you bring, hey, I was on the way over here, on the way home, or on the way over, and I'd done some research, and there was a couple of things that I read that brought the question up of, is this a ploy to make money elsewhere? Or however you want to present the question is because, to your point, you have free speech. So you want to make sure that we ask the question in a way that can't be misconstrued or run with. And I highly doubt you're the first person to ask that question. And I think it brings up a good point. But there it goes to that website of, is it going to be true transparency? Is all of the back earnings, like, basically I love the fact that they went through all of our spending, and then the next section down was our revenue, including tax dollars and all of that. And then the bottom line, I mean, it was like a report I would pull for work to see how
it's great.
P&L, to basically see how the branch is running, right? Mm-hmm. And so if I get to see that bottom number, we're at $1.8 trillion in a deficit right now. At some point in time, if the Department of Efficiency works, that should go down for 2025. And if they do their job and they do it well, someday it might even go the other direction. We have a surplus, right?
That'd be cool.
And if that's the case, then everything in here should add up. And if there's numbers that disappear, right? they become generic or stuff that we can't research or we're not allowed to look into to find out where. I love the fact that I just sat there and researched, I don't know, 2 or 3 of the LLCs that
I geeked out on it all week.
Yeah. If I start looking into that and I'm, oh, well, a similar contract, somebody smarter than me would have to do it because I don't know if I got the brain power to do it, looks into it and goes, oh, well, wait a minute. I know that's a company off of Trump or whoever, you know what I mean? Like, wait a minute, that I can tie that back to, kind of like you can tie, you can tie Disney back to the Chinese government.
What's it, follow the money?
If you follow the money, yeah. You know what I mean? Like, so if I follow the money back and it lands in Elon's lap, well, we've just proven your fact, right? But until then,
I guess
your question. Hey, let me correct my. I've proven your question. So
interesting.
I think on both sides, you guys both have a good point. You got to be careful how you present things, and on that, but you can't ever stop asking questions because it's part of the checks and balances. We just have to, as a people, be careful how we do it because information is rampant now. I could take right now. In fact, a lot of the stuff we were looking at over there was Wikipedia. That's unfounded information. Like, that's just somebody writing it. It could be true. It could be false. There's nobody really. There's nobody's job, as far as I know, that does fact checking on Wikipedia.
No, I can go in and change shit on Wikipedia right now. I could say that you're a transgender elephant if you have a.
We tried it. Remember we did it.
Yeah, I did it. I would change people's.
But like so we're in an era of the fact checking doesn't exist. Mm-hmm. So we just have to be careful what we present, especially I think in an environment like this.
I'm not going to stop asking questions. I'm not going to stop thinking.
Nobody ever said stop asking questions. I don't like when you do that, though, because I never told you to stop asking questions.
Tom said that we have to be.
He said keep asking questions.
But he also said we have to be. Didn't you say we have to think about our questions before we ask them? I'm still going to ask questions that.
What I'm going to say to you, though, is I can agree with your question, but I don't. Well, I guess the part that I don't agree with is adding a name to it. So the question
why?
is
He's a billionaire.
But you don't have a reason to put it there.
Because I do. I mean, that's who I.
But why? Has he done something wrong to you? That's a negative.
No, he's a billionaire that could do it. He has the means. That's why I asked.
But it's a negative. Okay. Do you think it's a positive or a negative?
What, being a billionaire?
No, if he eliminates funding here and then backdoors it and ends up putting it in the pot.
Yeah, I think it's a crook move. Yeah.
Okay.
And I was just asking, do you think it could happen?
But what I'm trying to say is, if you said, do you think there's organizations that will try to come in here afterwards and do some dark secret shit, try to do stuff? I could get along with that and be like, yes, I think that could happen, and that's solid. When you attach a name to it, that's where my issue is, because the name didn't do anything to earn that. Just because he's a millionaire, he's corrupt, or he would do something corrupt, or a billionaire. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I understand the question, and I think it's a good question, and you can totally think that Elon's going to do that. I don't care, but that's where I think that when people put a name to that, that's a disjustice to the person, because what did he do?
Maybe I asked the name because he's the person doing the cuts. So I'm like, can he do this? Like, he's the person that is running all these cuts. He's the one that sees exactly where stuff is, and he has access to do it. Like he has direct access to do it.
I understand why you're saying.
So that's why I put that name, and I don't.
But do you think it's a positive? It's a positive.
I don't care what it is. I think it's just asking a question.
All right, just for the simple fact of not going round and round on it too long. Can I ask another question?
Sure.
That I think this kind of roots into everything is there, because this all comes down to trust, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you're asking questions of distrust, right? You're just looking at this is the potential of a millionaire doing something devious, right? So you've got that question of, can I trust him? Basically, is what it comes down to. Yeah. Can I trust any millionaire in that fact? Billionaire. Trump, can I trust? Yeah, any billionaire, anybody that has the ability to do this, whether it's somebody in our country or otherwise, can I trust them? And your point is, be careful what you ask, because you're going to seed distrust where distrust may not need to be seeded.
No, what are we putting specific
right specific
parameters
names,
on?
Right. So what is it that can be done by the government, by Musk, by Trump, by anybody that would restore trust in, because I think that it's rich people in general, ultra rich, are automatically associated with doing bad. They avoid taxes. They're doing something mischievous with their money. They're out there molesting people, or they're like, it's automatically associated that evil is
Surrounds-
tied.
Yeah.
Like this guy George Soros. Like everybody's like, this dude's terrible. I don't know much about him, but
Right.
like,
Yeah,
that's
like,
all I know is negative shit about him.
right. So like, what
And I could have said George Soros too. I could have said
Like,
that, but
but
he's
you can say
not
anybody-
directly there.
you could say somebody that's from China, or somebody from Europe or Russia or anywhere else that's got ultra money, right? How can society start putting positive spin on ultra rich people when not all of them are bad? Like, that's like saying every basketball player is into drugs and alcohol, or or cheating on their wife, or or it's linked to racism or anything else. Like, I mean, you're basically judging a book by its cover. They're rich, therefore they're evil. They are this, therefore they're that. Like, how do you get to the
How
point?
about this?
How do you get away from that?
Maybe I'm not necessarily saying it's evil. It's he's smart, and like this is something he could do because he's intelligent,
Right, and
he has the means to do
I'm
it.
not-
That's
I'm not
an evil
asking-
thing to do, though.
But I'm not.
Nope.
I'm not asking
Well,
you.
I'm just-
I'm not asking you to justify your question.
I
You
didn't
can
say
ask your
this guy's
question.
fucking evil. I just
can-
asked a question.
You can ask your question. I'm not just asking you to justify your question, and I'm not asking that at all. What I'm asking a different question. I'm asking, how do we as a society get back to where we can start trusting people again, especially people in power?
We speak on the facts and not on assumptions.
I think there's a good point to that. But in a day and age where facts are hard to come by because we're so inundated by opinions and assumptions, how do we get to that? How do we get back to that point where we can even trust the news? Like, I don't even watch the news because I don't trust it.
Transparency is how you get back.
So was I making assumptions?
I feel like you were making an assumption towards him.
So I just have to fall in line with whatever. I can't question anything.
You can question anything you want. You can question anything you want. Okay, let me put it
Thank
like
you.
this. What if, dude, you are fighting for the wrong thing over there?
Why?
Because
Why
I never
is
said
it
I never
wrong?
said you didn't have free speech. You tried to say that I said that. I didn't say you didn't have free
You
speech.
just okay. I asked you.
said I
You said
don't-
we can't work on assumptions. I asked you, was I making an assumption? And you said yes. And I said,
Well,
I can't
what do you
make
think you were
assumptions.
making?
I was coming up with an
Are
idea.
you making an assumption or not?
I asked a hypothetical question of something. I didn't assume anything. I thought maybe things could happen. Like, I'm putting a scenario that
Well,
might
something-
happen.
The assumption.
I'm not assuming that he's a crook. I'm asking you, do you think this can happen?
And like I said, I think that yes, bad. If somebody wants to do, I think there's always people that are bad, and that if somebody wants to try to do something bad, they'll do it. I definitely think that's a thing. And I can agree, if you have your hands in the money jar, you are in a position to do bad things. I can agree with that. Like I said, my only point is, and you can feel however you want to feel. My thing is, there's a lot of people that put things out there based off their feelings and not based off of facts. And then people take those feelings and run with it and try to make it become a fact. And then they start talking about it, and it creates mistrust, and it creates questions, and it creates people not feeling like things are transparent. And my point is I feel like you can have that thought and wonder about that and everything, but to put it out and say about a certain person, I feel like you're bringing them into that fold that they didn't do anything to belong there. Like, he didn't do anything wrong. He's, for all intents and purposes, until otherwise we find something out, it seems as if he's trying to help the United States people and to help the government get correct, right? So in that process, I guess, do we need people that are naysaying it or planning? They're starting to think negative things about it, like, oh, they're saving the money here so they can spend it here. I guess that's my problem. Is yes, that can happen totally, and it's already happened. It's been happening, right? I mean, these people have been doing. It seems as if there's a lot of backdoor things that have been happening for a long time. I just have a problem sticking a name on it when they haven't actually done anything to sit at that seat, to sit at that table in a negative light, I guess, is my thing with it. Like, if, I don't know, like when somebody gets accused of something nowadays, they're automatically guilty, it seems like, right? Before, and even after they're found innocent, they're still almost treated like they're guilty sometimes. So I don't know. I hate to see names get put out there when they don't deserve to be sitting there. Like, they didn't do anything to be sitting there negatively. They didn't do a negative thing.
So you'd be just as mad if I said, do you think George Soros is going to come in and backfill all these things? Would you have been just as mad?
Yeah, I would not be okay with saying his name because I don't know. Why would I think he's?
So it'd be more a healthy conversation if I said, if an ultra rich person came in and like backfilled the spot.
No, I just think backfill us thought.
I mean, take these contracts, this money, like create a company to take these contracts. I don't even know if that's a thing. Like it was just an idea that I had.
Yes, I think that. Well, okay, you're kind of jumping around a little bit.
I'm not. It's exact. I just changed the question that you didn't
So
like.
you're asking
if he rephrases the
Yeah, if
question.
I rephrase the question,
I said you asked me if you said if I asked you if I used George Soros instead. Yeah, and I said I would still not be okay with it.
Okay.
Because is there a reason why you use George Soros? Would be my thing. Is there a reason why you put him into that scenario?
and I told you why I used Musk because he's like got direct access and he could do it. That's why I said Elon Musk.
I understand. I love you too. I still
Yeah.
feel like it's negative, but I get past it.
I don't know if you don't think about. I feel like if you don't think about the things that could happen, it's just going to happen.
Well,
Like,
you know,
gotta
I think about the things that could happen.
And
I talk
so
to
do
you about
I.
that, but I don't. But I think about the things that could happen based off of things that I are seeing that are pointing in that direction.
But shit happens when you don't expect it.
Right.
It just happens.
And that's life.
Yeah.
But
so I can
but I
think
don't need
about
to
the
implement.
things that
But
might
I don't need to
happen, and-
implement somebody's name in that. You know,
Okay.
like for example, my daughter could get in a car accident 10 years from now. I'm not going to put her boyfriend as the one driving already. That's the one that, because I might feel like, I don't know, you know, just because he's a boy and he's driving her around, that I think he's in a, you know, oh, it's his fault already. He might happen. What if he's driving you and you get in a car accident? I'm not looking at that. It's just they're driving. If something happens, we'll look at it at the time. But to put his name in there ahead of time of something that hasn't even happened yet, it's a hypothetical. That's where I have a problem. Why are we putting people's names to a hypothetical situation that they haven't even earned?
because he has direct
But he
access.
hasn't earned a negative light. Do you feel like he's earned a negative light? You haven't answered the question. Do you feel like it's a positive statement or you think that's a positive statement or a negative statement?
I think it's positive. Think about things that could
That's
happen.
not what I said. That's not what I'm saying. Don't try to act like that. Play that game.
Right? What do you want me to say, John? I'll say
it. And you're bringing Elon Musk into it. Are you making a positive statement about Elon Musk, or do you think you're painting a dark statement about Elon Musk?
I think I'm asking. You want my honest answer? You're going to talk all over it.
I want you to answer.
Okay. I think that I'm just asking a question if something could happen. I don't think it's negative. I don't think it's either. I think it's just a question, and I can ask a question to somebody. I can ask something. I'm not saying, hey, what?
Are we doing that again? Yes, you're allowed to talk. Nobody's ever tried
No,
to take away your right to talk. Keep saying like we're trying to.
I don't think it's negative or positive. I just think it's a question.
Okay.
And I can ask questions can be asked. I'm not like,
But if
I'm not saying
if somebody was talking about something that could potentially be negative and your name was brought up in it, would you be okay with that, or would you have a problem with it?
well, I could defend it with facts. If
Why is your name? Wouldn't you be upset?
because maybe
Wouldn't you be
if
upset
I
your
was
name was
Elon
brought up
Musk
in
and
the
they
first
what?
place? Wouldn't you be upset that your name was painted in negative light in the first place?
I don't. If
When
I
you
was
didn't deserve
Elon
it, you're
Musk,
like, what the fuck did I do? I didn't do nothing. I'm sitting here trying to help you.
if I was Elon Musk, I would understand that people may think that could
He
happen.
can understand it. He
Okay.
can understand that. I can understand that too. That I can move past it, even though people are going to say bad things of me, or I'm in a certain position that people are going to look bad at me and ill at me. That's fine. I can understand that. But it doesn't mean that I can't hope that people are going to stop putting my name into situations that I haven't put myself into. That I'm not, you know, as far as we know, he hasn't done any shady business deals that have blown up that people have seen that he's done a whole bunch of shady stuff. So, you know, why would we go that direction in this scenario? And that's
the
where
question. Because he's
and I think
he's the one running it, and you can question people that are running things. You can wonder if that could happen. I mean, the ramifications of being a public figure and doing things are that people are going to question you, and that's healthy. And I'm not going to not.
He's only running this aspect of it. He's not running anything
Okay.
after that. And
But
he's just reporting to the president.
Like I said, he's out front, the face of Doge, and if you don't think he's not, then I don't know what else.
I didn't
to
say it wasn't the face of Doge.
Let me finish what I'm saying. So he's the face of Doge. He's getting all the accolades, deserved accolades. I can question if maybe he could do something.
You're right. You can't.
So then that's all I did. And I thought this was like three guys just talking, and I just brought it up. I'm not trying to paint him at
fine, but I'm still going to be the guy over here telling you I don't think that's a fair statement to say about somebody.
It was a question.
As
It
three
wasn't a
guys talking.
statement. It was a question.
But it becomes a statement, is what I'm trying to tell you. In this day and age,
No, I
when you
didn't
put
say
stuff out there like
Elon Musk is going to rip off the U.S. government. That is a statement.
you're not listening to me.
Okay,
In
go
this
ahead.
day
I'll
and
listen
age,
closer.
People take those types of things and they run with it, and it creates a narrative, and it gets asked and asked over and over again, and it creates distrust.
Well,
That's what happens.
Why can't people distrust people?
you can totally distrust people, but you don't want to create it if it doesn't need to be there. Why would you why would you want to distrust Elon Musk? Do you distrust him with what he's done so far?
Okay. It's already been created because I feel that way. I feel that way. What?
Because of Elon or somebody else?
No, if I have distrust, I have it. It's been created. I'm not, so it's here.
And I have it too.
Okay. Well, and I'm just asking the question like that. I'm not trying to influence people. I was actually trying to get you guys to tell me why it's not going to happen. Like maybe help me with my distrust.
Why it's not going to happen? Why somebody? I mean, but that's what I'm telling you. I can't.
You could say, you know what? Instead of like getting so angry with me.
I'm not angry.
Okay. You could say it's hard for me to hear you say, "Oh, he's never done anything wrong," because you're arguing with me. I just wanted to ask a question and talk. And I feel like you're yelling at me right now and like cutting me off. Like I want you to tell me why I shouldn't think that way.
I've tried to tell you. You're not listening to me. You're still standing on the freedom of speech.
No, I'm not. No, I'm answering your direct questions of do I feel like it's negative? Like we weren't even talking about why I shouldn't fear him or be distrustful. You just keep telling me why, or ask me why I'm putting out negative things.
Right.
I'm asking questions so I can feel better and get good answers from people and be like, you know what? Fuck yeah, I do trust this guy.
So that's what I'm saying is I think,
or anybody that's rich.
Right. And I can understand that. And that's why I say, I think the better question is do you think we'll see any people? Do you think we'll see anybody come in after this and try to manipulate it or to get money and work on the back end? I can understand that question, it could be a thing that happens. I don't understand, for me personally, why somebody's name has to be attached to that question. That would be a negative thing to do, and to associate somebody with that thing, that negative thing, I don't feel is fair unless they've actually done something in that direction.
Tom wants to talk.
No, because I'll go. I'm like I see what both of you are saying. I think you're asking the question, and you put somebody's name to it to generify is that a word? Generify?
Probably.
I'll make it a word. To generify. I'm making it a word right now. Yeah. To generify this statement, yes, I think it absolutely could happen, and I'm hoping that that level of evil doesn't happen to where people backfill inefficiency in an effort to get rid of inefficiencies. That just seems like horribly counterproductive and really inefficient. That's my answer to that question. Mm-hmm. If I was to take that question and just make it generic.
Because we feel right now that shit is misran and there's like fraud, waste, and abuse, and like that's what we live in right now. Well, yeah. And I guess I'm saying, is this actually going to change? I'm hoping not going to do that.
I'm hoping so. I'm hoping that with Trump being somebody that is outside of the political realm, and I think that's why the politicians don't like him and have done everything they can to disrupt his journey to presidency. I think that's why they don't want him there, because they don't have the same hold on him as they do everybody else. Because I do believe that in this day and age, to become a politician, there's a lot to go through. I don't know if I'd want to be a politician. I don't know if I could do that. I don't know if I could side with certain people that I may not want to side with just to get my way. Like I want a bridge fixed over, Lincoln. But in order to do that, I got to be okay with, I don't know, hamburger meat being made out of puppies. I don't know. Like, I mean, you know what I mean? Like, in order to get the money here, I got to do something horrible over here, which I feel is what politics has become.
100%.
You know what I mean? And so it's one of those things where I'm hoping, and I know hope is not a strategy, but I'm hoping that him being as brass and just flat out straightforward with everything is just a sign of the fact that that's him. Like he hasn't. One thing that I hold kind of as a compass is that Trump is Trump is Trump is Trump. Like he's not like the Trump that is not necessarily different now that he's a president. He's the same guy that he was 4 years ago, and in any other interview I've ever seen him in. Still speaks the same, sounds the same, says the same silly stuff, and does the same silly things. So that tells me that really he hasn't changed, right? I'm hoping that Elon Musk is kind of in that same way. He's a very unique individual. I think you're right. He's an absolute genius. Yes, I'm waiting for him to come out with an Iron Man suit. Like he's that level of like Tony Stark rich and Tony Stark brilliance. I wouldn't be surprised if he has some holographic AI system in his basement. Like, it wouldn't shock me. Like, if he came out and was like, oh, yeah, I already have that. Like, oh, okay, sweet. Like, I wish you would have shared it with us earlier because it would have been cool to see. I'm hoping that he, too, being kind of outside that realm of the standard 70, 80-year-old politicians that we have, that, or the ones that are, interviewed and brought in because they look like a good politician, or however, the different dysfunctional ways we have of growing politicians in this country right now. I'm hoping he's different, and I'm hoping that we don't find out in a year, 2 years, 3 years that, yes, he's just getting rid of these contracts so that he can own them. You know what I mean? Because at this point, to John's point, yes, it was funny because as John was saying that, stuff on the screen was coming up of things that...
What's up with our screen right now?
Things that were... it's okay. Things were coming out, popping up on the screen over there that, Elon is being accused of. And it's, again, it goes back to my question of why is it that the uber rich are automatically distrusted? And to John's point, often when they're tried, even if they're found innocent, we're going to continue to doubt their innocence. And, the innocent until proven guilty thing, it kind of goes away once you hit a certain earning level. I'm hoping he's different. I love what he's done with SpaceX. He's hired thousands of brilliant people to do things that we only saw in cartoons as a kid. You know what I mean? Like, to see a rocket land on its tail blew me away. Like, that was Marvin the Martian shit, right? And to see the bridge of his capsule that he sent people to space in, it just looked like something that was out of sci-fi. It's brilliant. And these people he's hired and the money that he's given them to do and take and make their dreams reality is amazing. Electric cars wouldn't be what they are today if it wasn't for Tesla. I mean, he broke that mold of an affordable electric vehicle.
He also broke the mold of the government's hold on social media.
Yeah, I mean, he took and, you can't buy SpaceX. Crap. All right, you just told me I couldn't do something. Damn it, somebody write a check, right? And that's what he did. And so now he owns X, right? And he's changed. He does what people says he can't do, and I think he does it just to prove them wrong. And so I'm hoping in this situation, like, somebody walked up to him, like, honestly, what I think the Cybertruck is a bet. Somebody was like, you can't build a cheese with 4 wheels and have people back order it. Watch me. I'll draw this triangle with 4 wheels. I'm going to sell it, and I'm going to sell it to the point where people are going to buy it years in advance. And he made it happen. I think somebody walked up to him, Trump, said, I bet you can't make the government efficient. Hold my beer. Right? And I hope that's what it is. He's just that mindset of like, I'm going to go get this shit. I'm going to make the government, I'm going to do what nobody else can do. I'm going to make an efficient government. Not because I want to own shit on the back end, but because I want it right. That's what I hope he is. What I'm fearful of is the things that we can't see, because it's all the other people, all the other influences, whether it's uber rich in our country, other countries, or anywhere else, the people we don't even know about, the people that stay in the dark, that have money, the Illuminati, if you will. Those people are the ones that freak me out in that situation, because I don't necessarily trust Musk or Schumer or any of the other, even there's things even, with Trump. We said earlier, we just got to kind of sit back and watch, because I don't know what his strategy is. If this is his negotiation strategy, or is he just trying to get a big splash, or what? But it's like, at least I can see them. It's the things I can't see that make me nervous. Like, who's going, damn it, you just, by cutting that contract, you just cost me billions of dollars. Now I got to go do it again. And so now something else falls into that gap, not because somebody we see does it, but because that dark undercurrent, wherever it is, just lost money, and they're like, all right, I call you, I call your bluff. I'm going to go do it again. I'll just go get another contract with, somebody else. Kind of like what you were saying with the soft political, like we've got money going to Africa. If we pull money out of Africa, China's going to fall into that spot. Well, we know China's doing that, so it's kind of, at least we can know what our enemy is doing. It's the enemy we don't know and the enemy we don't see. Those are the ones that make me nervous. So that's my answer to your generified question.
Yeah, I guess I'm like you. I hope and I trust that things go right, and that's why I ask questions like, "Do you think this can throw a monkey wrench into it going right?"
I think we should be more afraid of what we don't know than what we do know.
I guess my problem. Maybe you'll understand if I say it like this better. And then we gotta wrap up anyway soon. There's not enough time for another argument. What I was gonna say is, no, you know how you were saying that like you were before the election and stuff, you were kind of in a news feed that you had that was kind of feeding your thought, the current thoughts, the fears, whatever it may be, right? Okay, so that type of stuff is fueled by tidbits like I feel like that statement you just made with where that you pinned Elon Musk to it, because a person that feels that way that might even feel is gonna take that and run with it. And that's what happens in even that social circle where you were talking about, where you developed all your social media feeds are giving you these, even if it's a hypothetical that doesn't have any merit behind it. Now people are like, Biden did this, or Trump did this, or Tulsi Gabbard is this, Kash Patel is it, whoever it may be. They take these little seeds and they plant them, and they have no merit, and they just run with it. And to the point where, like, I watched after the bombing, somebody come out on a podcast with one of the guys the bomber had reached out to. It was on the Sean Ryan podcast, and they aired it. It was an emergency. They did a last minute podcast in the middle of the night to make the podcast, and they aired it. And he was worried about airing it because of the whole, they didn't know everything that was going on. But it was this whole manifesto the guy had given out and talked to this other podcaster that was small time. And then the minute they put it out, the whole freaking, all the military and the people that I watch, everything else, and all the other people just started bashing the shit out of Sean Ryan, saying that he was an idiot, that he's putting out misinformation, and all stuff like that. And then, like 4 days later, the FBI does a press conference and verifies that the information that was sent to the podcaster that was on Sean Ryan did come from the guy that blew himself up in the Tesla truck, and then it was his manifesto. And so my thing is these people just slayed these guys. It's his livelihood. And I hate to see when people get drug into something and it paints them in a negative light, and they can't recoup, they can't get out of it, they can't get away from it. And so in times like that, like, that's his podcast. He's out of the military, he's at X amount of years, and now it's podcast to make a ton of money. He does one thing to try to put information out there, and people slam him and say he's all these things, and they're just guessing. They're assuming. They don't even know. But that can sink him. That could have sunk him. It didn't, thank God. But it could have sunk him, and next thing you know, he lost his job, his livelihood, everything he's worked for, because people just wanted to paint a narrative. That's where I see that, and that's why my passion behind that is like that. I see too many people that I feel like, 1 minute they have this successful, even with TikTok, I felt the same way in a sense, when they were going to rip TikTok away. I don't give a fuck about TikTok. But what I do give a fuck about is there are millions of people on that application that literally make a living using that application, and they were going to rip it away and take all those people's livelihoods away that had created these small businesses and created these small communities throughout the application, and not thinking about it, and just crush their businesses. And so that was my problem with it. Elon Musk, whoever it may be, that was my point of, like, it's just, if it's gonna, it could be a detriment to somebody that they didn't deserve, then I don't think it's fair.
Can I bring up a weird point?
I just want to say mine after you're done. Yeah.
Go ahead. I'll wait till you're done.
10 minutes.
I let them talk.
Leave,
Then I gotta
leave,
go.
leave me three.
I just want to say that I wasn't trying to make a statement or like create a narrative. I was just asking a question that to me was interesting, and I value your guys' opinion and your thoughts on it. And I only use Musk's name because he's doing all this, and that's all it was. I wasn't trying to make a statement. It was a question. Now, if I went, Musk is going to rip us all off. That would have been creating a narrative and saying a statement. My question was, do you think it could happen? That's all it was. I wasn't trying to slander him. I was just asking two of my friends a question.
And I understand that. I guess my thing is the same question could have been asked without Musk's name being.
But I wanted to know. I wanted to know about Musk.
Why you're including him in it?
Mm-hmm.
That's my thing. Unfortunate in this day and age, that question, as innocent as it can be, it can be taken extremely out of context and used as a negative thing for him. Now, granted, with our 3 viewers and shit. It's
I
probably not
know.
going to be our podcast that does it, but there's plenty of people that do that.
Yeah.
And that's where I have a problem with it. When I'm like, wait a second, why are you guys even saying? Because even when I listen to some, I'll get on like a news agency that's saying something about Trump and I'll listen to it. And if it's just like all hateful, it's like stuff that's real.
Can I ask you, have I been hateful to
I didn't-
Musk this
I
whole?
didn't
No,
say
I'm
you.
just asking you, have I?
You have not.
No.
So and this was a question, just like I said, I value your opinions. I want to see if you're on my wavelength, if you could see something like that happening. And I want to know about Musk specifically.
Yes.
Yep.
I can
Play golf with Elon Musk. He made me pay, which was really weird. That's a total lie. No, I've played the middle ground this entire podcast, and I want to. I'm good.
Yeah, Chuck, you're the Chuck roll.
I'm a Chuck. Maybe Chuck and I want to come back with Chuck here. That way he and I can like we want to. That way I have a friend. I just want to say in your explanation of why you reacted the way that you did to his question.
Yeah.
You honestly explained his same feeling towards the people that were fired. Like you guys took the same side. If you were to break it down to just subject matter, you guys took the same side in 2 different arguments. Like you took his side for the why can't I remember the people that are in the probationary thing. I couldn't think of that word. You took that same side of like
how do we know?
How do like that if you go back and think about it, like you took that same side that he had, and I just found it kind of interesting. And again, it goes to show that we're all like, even in our difference of opinions, and I think this is because this is something I feel passionate about. Even though we all have this like strong, opinionated feelings about things, when you boil it down to actually what it is, we're not that far apart. And if we have open discussions and you guys can argue like this and still be friends afterwards, that's how you figure out that, okay, yeah, I may feel this way about this, you may feel that way about that, but really when it comes down to it, we're not that far apart from each other. Mm-hmm. But that's how things get done.
I'm leaving out here thinking Mike hates fucking Elon Musk.
I'm thinking that way too. You know, and I know Steve feels that way.
I just think that a healthy distrust of things is healthy. Like,
I don't disagree with you. I'm just saying that I just found it interesting that like
we can ask questions. That's all I was doing.
It was interesting to see how close you guys were. If you just changed the subject matter, how close you guys were in your opinions in like the generalization of people.
I don't know if I'm seeing the correlation as much as you are, but
no,
I don't think I'm seeing as much. But
I understand.
I can understand what you're saying, though.
Yeah.
That yes, I agree with you. A lot of times you dial it down. It's pretty much similar value.
It's just generalizing. You don't want to make generalized statements. You don't want to make generalized decisions. You don't want to make generalized choices, because you can either hurt people or you can hurt people. Because if you don't take the time to make strategic decisions in what you say, what you do to others, and how you behave, then your generic or generalized statements or generalized actions can hurt people that may not have fit that.
Gotcha. Well,
I don't know. That's my preschool ending to this.
I agree.
You know what I mean?
I can agree with that.
That's just the position I sat today. I'm sure if I ever get a chance to come back, if the guy that you wanted to get, if he's not available again, and I can come back.
I enjoyed having you here, Tom.
Yeah. Hey, look, if you can work it in, we can see how many microphones.
Yeah,
we got.
I got microphone. I've got the whole setup.
Can we like remote you in though? I don't like you close to me. Can we just have you like in a box?
I'm gonna move myself over here.
Set up to where it's quiet in the background. We can totally remote you in.
I can do that. Yeah.
Totally do that.
Yeah. Or like I said, I can bring my microphone and
let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
I love it.
Trying to figure out. We got another port right there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
we have another port.
One
All
more.
right.
Yeah.
Well, thanks guys.
Well, this one
had a good time.
We appreciate everybody. Much
See
love
what-
here on the panel, no matter what you may feel.
No matter
we all
what.
actually do love each other, and Mike will always be my brother. But thank you guys for watching.
Thanks,
and
Steve.
Until next
Steve,
time.
you're the best.